into doing that in the first place because they're trying to find every way possible to get ahead. And one of those ways is sacrificing kids en masse
but
to some entity. That works. It works. It's a good idea. Timur, consider it. I'm sure you've seen kids you don't like.
Later. First, you got you gotta get there, and then you get the introduction. Then you get the quest. 5 kids, and dude, this is fucking awesome. And then you get into it. But I mean, we are simple people. So basically, you guys are doing the reverse. You want to understand or actually getting there, but they are getting there via the path of, you know, being rats and being rich or whatever, and then they kind of then they get there. But you guys are doing the reverse. You want the first do the magic and then do the life, but they are first doing life and then they are doing the magic.
And I assume you drew that conclusion by knowing several of them?
I assume that it's basically a form of it's like a sort of no, I don't know. Do you know people of your age? I don't know how old you are, but do you know people of your age that are from that demographic and perform those rituals and at the same time get a lot of money or whatever and will amplify in 20 years it will get even bigger.
I know part of the nepotism that takes place, especially when it's about that kind of person, they induct people into it. Kids, yes, young, they get put into it and they do some of the rituals, and as they mature and they start to be able to handle more, then they're given more. And eventually, they are fast forwarded or they are helped by that network of peoples to get to places of importance. The two are reflexive. The more important you are, the more you do that sort of stuff. But the more you do that sort of stuff, the more you can get to a place of importance.
Okay. Yeah. So the demon world is basically a sort of virtual reality space for the super rich, for the elites. Correct?
Consider Timur, that demon world and images of fantasy RPGs and fantastical media relating to all this sort of stuff is more or less both a form of disinfo and a way of putting it out in the public. In practice, it's not at all like you would see in media, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But how is it then? Is it
Think about
super
it this way.
banal? Is it because I think I know where you're going. I mean, if it's
The
not
very
demon world,
basic level
then
of
it's
doing that, the simplest level of doing that, that doesn't require a very advanced metaphysical consciousness, but with rigorous hard work and so on and so forth, can still be explored very widely as science. Science is about finding natural laws and constants and things that are inherent properties of the universe to form predictions.
yeah, but no one has really all that Neoplatonistic shit. It's very unstable in my opinion. It's an attempt at what is it? Cornering metaphysics, but it's still very bullshitty. The
Metaphysics just means more than physics.
yeah,
When it comes to science, the point of science is that it stays at physics. But in
the
reality, and as we're starting to run into the limits of what you can do with physics, it turns into metaphysics because it turns
mm,
into theories that cannot be evidenced using,
okay,
plain scientific method,
okay.
like
Um,
Higgs boson.
super easy, yes, yes, 100% agree. But I would add that the world is actually 100% metaphysical, and our physical, what is it, no, well, now I'm saying physical, our apparatuses, our eyes, and so on, our perceptions, just constrain metaphysics to physics. But essentially, everything, the world is physical, and the singularity, so on and so on. That's like the end reach uh, of 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 like quantifying metaphysics. If you reach the singularity, you did it, and then you restart the cycle by entering a post singularity. And I mean, if you look at from this standpoint, from this revolution, blah 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 blah, blah standpoint, then it, I mean, life becomes very not not mysterious, because it's super there's this science thing, not science, it's called heuristics. If you approach life from a heuristical standpoint, then you can very much constrain the future and the past and the present, and then the metaphysical just becomes like, predicting or throwing, no wait, just predicting trends and so on. I mean, there's really nothing special about it. And indeed, demons totally do not make sense, and it's about partying with your buddies, dancing around the campfire. That's how banal it actually is. It's my perception of it.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and uh, so far, yeah, you're right. Heuristics. It's about
Mm.
forming an abstraction of reality in your head, because that's what a heuristic is, a simplified version of reality, an idea in your head of
Mhm.
everything, all natural processes that you can encounter, and you can think very deeply and long about life and its mysteries, or you can go ahead and just see what life throws at you to try to form said heuristics. And sooner or later, you find that it becomes apparent there is an intelligence to the way these heuristics or the way the inherent properties of the world around you are arranged. And
Okay.
so you can start deducing what that extrinsic intelligence is thinking.
Okay. And
So
you can attach to it. You can get attached to its flow, and you can flow with it together, and that's how you will get successful, because you are listening to it and you are in sync with it, and so on. Yeah, okay, I get it. And the chaos magic and so on totally applies to it, because the first kind of interpretation, or maybe the second, I would say, the second interpretation of this discovery about some kind of being is that it is actually not really super benevolent, but kind of an asshole, in the same way as Descartes would describe his demon. The guy that if everything is, Descartes' demon.
I've read Les Pensées de Descartes, yes, but yeah, no,
Okay,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
so there's the if everything has to go via the plan, because somewhere there's a really nasty demon and he pushes the buttons randomly. He just exists to fuck with you, and that's basically chaos magic. So if you kind of align to the chaos side of the being, and so on, then you can kind of um, be its disciple and also get some profit out of it. And the opposite of it would obviously be virtue, and so on and so on. Basically, Sephiroth versus the Kliptot, what Dutch posted recently. It's fucking easy, dude. There's really nothing to fucking understand. You don't have to read books. I didn't fucking read books. It's basically you can get a little bit high. I took a lot of weed between 2014 and 15, and I kind of a little bit discovered it there, and so on. There's really nothing to fuck it speculate about.
So, as you said, yeah, you have a rough idea of how all things are kind of structured. You see your duality. You see more or less what you could call a demon that everybody kind of carries with them, and yeah, that could be enough to mirror.
Yeah. So, are you guys putting me on the next stage, or what?
Well, no, the way you've said it, you've gone as far as you can go. It's simple. You figured it out, Timur. All of it. There's nothing
I
else to
know.
it.
Yeah. Uh, I did not figure out,
Now, what
how
did you not figure out, Timur?
how to be a world conqueror.
Ah,
No.
you couldn't really figure out what the inherent universe design behind the Conqueror is, could you?
No, I understand it, but don't understand if you have to be an asshole or you have to be a virtuous guy. I don't know. Or do you have
You
to
have
be
to understand how the archetype, the human archetype of the Conqueror, fits into the continuum of the human theater. You see, if you want to play the part of the Conqueror, then you have to understand what the entire play is about and what other scripts are about,
okay? I get it.
where you fit in.
From that, I cannot. I am not the conqueror. It's too hard. I have to fuck, dude. I have to work a lot to become what you guys call the return of the Timur, blah 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 blah. All those shit joking jokes and so on. It's impossible. Maybe in 5 years, I don't know. Now, but
Well, life
yeah,
has a funny way of when you want to make something happen because you feel it's the right thing. You feel like it should be that way. Well, maybe reality feels the same way, Timur. Maybe reality feels you should be a conqueror too, and all you have to do is genuinely try.
yeah. I know I have to try. I can try, but my best excuse when I fail is that I do not have enough surplus. I still have an umbilical cord attached. When I detached from the umbilical cord, an individual, and when I am 200% responsible for how is it called? Standing, or well, what is it? Possible.
200%.
Yeah. When I'm
Okay.
100% autonomous, then it will be possible. Yeah, but I'm not autonomous right now.
So, in other words, you're not in control.
Yes, I at least financially. That's the biggest financial stability, the actual surplus. Then I will start to
Is financial
expand.
stability keeping you from
I think
stopping your addiction to transsexual pornography,
yeah.
stopping you
Mhm.
from obsessing over feeding the snake however you can?
Yes, yes,
Is it
it's all.
stopping you from using your free time to maybe do some research, maybe educate yourself however
Uh,
you can?
I, dude, I'm fucking tired. I have been trying and I did educate myself for as long as I can remember. And I'm fucking tired. I just want surplus, like an unimaginable big surplus stability, just a fucking 9 to 5 without getting fired in a year or something. And then when I have that shit, to expand. It's basically StarCraft logic. Okay, you first. Well,
Never
I don't
played.
know. You okay? You need to basically. You cannot build a second base. I'm now in the mother base, and I need to is okay, and then I need to expand. But my mother base is just not. I'm quite retarded in this way because I'm way too old for it. But to put it simply, it's that I need to get much more surplus to build a second base. I don't have the surplus right now.
The surplus to do what exactly?
Well, once I will have financial stability, I will automatically transition into mental stability, and from mental stability, I will be at ease in learning much more new stuff than I'm learning now, because right now I'm not really learning. I'm kind of catching up, or in the sense I am um, well, yeah, the feeling that I get when I'm learning stuff, it's catching up. Like I have to learn how to do this in graphic design. But when I am there, when I already done it, any more of catching up, and then I'm stable, and then I can finally go to the next level and learn new skills. And I will not have the feeling of catching up again because I have already catched up all the essentials. I just don't have the fucking essentials, you see. That's the point. I need to get to the essentials, and then the surplus will come automatically.
Why is it that most people around you, most people in the world, do the same thing?
Mm.
They grind the essentials, but they never really do anything with that.
But what type of essentials are you talking about? Because I
Well, you're
am,
saying, I need the essentials. I need my financial stability
yeah,
to be able to do anything.
because I don't think people that have abilities. I'm quoting it like the how do we say it? Like the opening quotes, closing quotes. Have it actually. For example, some guy working in a bar, stability, has his minimal wage and pays off his bills. Blah blah blah. Has even enough money to have fun, but it's actually not. He just forgot that he has to catch up to his actual potential. While me, I'm almost fucking there, you see? I'm almost at my fucking peak potential, blah, blah, blah. But I just have maybe 10% left, and it feels kind of hard. The awareness of it feels hard. The projecting it into the future, like how will I do this, that, also feels fucking hard. And it has been like this for about 10 years. And I mean, it's much lighter now, much lighter. But I'll probably get there in a year or something, maybe half a year. But Most people, I believe, don't have it. That's why they kind of also remain normies, because they just brain zero, work, forget their maximal potential, and forget all the hassle with conquering the world and so on, and that's how they live. And then they get depressed when they're 40, blah blah blah, and so on.
Has it ever occurred to you that most people, yes, they are completely drained of their energy by their chores and whatever they need to do to stay comfortable and alive. And once they get that brief relief of not having that pressure on them, they forget they didn't know in the first place. What's your point, Timmer?
Um, so my point is that, well, you are saying, why can other people maintain stability, and why can I not maintain? Well, I'm saying that they actually do not maintain their stability, and they seem to maintain it, but they are actually very much but they don't think they don't think about it in that way. Therefore, it's much less of a burden for them, and therefore they have kind of like an average mental and stability, because their opinion about themselves is not super they don't have super high standards and so on. I just have super fucking high standards. That's my problem. That's why I feel always imbalanced and not stable, because in relation to my ideal stability, I am very not stable. Well, that's, I think. Do you get it now?
You feel anxious that you're not in the perfect environment. And
Don't
so
really feel anxious. No.
you anxious. What feeling is keeping you from doing anything else than working towards and hoping for that stability, that perfect environment to be comfortable in?
Well, I will explain it. Right now, in this moment, I just have too much projects that I have to work on and I have to refine. And the best thing I would have to do is work on it individually, one project at a time, improving it. It's gonna take a fucking slow time, and this is basically what keeps me from doing it. Do I have to just cut the cut the crap and start doing it? But and if I'm slowly there, taking baby steps, improving, basically on my graphic design portfolio, this is the burden actually. Then I will get there.
You
For
have to
example,
work,
hmm?
and so there's no energy or time for anything else.
Yes, yes, it's quite exhausting to think about that I have so much shit to do from so much different um, domains, because I'm sorry to myself, but I have quite a lot of different that I really can max out, and this actually fucks me hard. On specification, I would never really. I would be super stable. I would forget all the. I would not have super high standards. I would, but no, man. I have super fucking high standards. I want to be a game designer, a designer, an artist, a fucking musician. No, fuck that, dude. It's just too much. So that's actually and the thing is that I'm fucking almost there. I mean, with the proper guidance, that's why I'm theory crafting so much, because with the proper guidance and counseling, I could actually fucking do it.
So you chose a tough career and it's taking up all your time, but it's worth it
Mm-hmm.
because it's about to pay off.
The payoff. should be very good. Yes, I mean not the financial payoff. The I'm quite an ideologue. I want to make the world better and so on. Maybe if I will construct my opinion, the next generation can benefit from it, and there will be less trashy culture.
Very romantic of you.
Yeah.
So that's why you keep saying later, because right now there's no time. There's no
Yeah.
time. All of it goes into your projects.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's no time to work on
You're
my
tell
project because I
you're
don't
telling
have
me that
time.
you have no time, no free time, no
Wait a
nothing,
minute.
because all of it is work right now.
So I don't have time for my projects because work on my projects. That's it.
You don't have time for your projects because you have to work
Work
on your
on my
projects.
yeah. It's stupid. Eh? It basically comes down to that I have a bad strategy plan or that I do not maintain my strategy plan. But if I will
All
have a
right.
stable income,
What does your
then
day
I'm
look
sure
like these days?
from
Is it
I
wake up, do graphic design, maybe
no no
drink something, maybe eat something, and then graphic design until you fall back asleep?
no. I from 9 to 10 I work. Then from 9 to 3 I work, and yeah, it's part time. And then I come home and write resumes. Yeah, right now. Huh? And if the resume game, that's my strategy now. Huh? I'm just fucking making spamming resumes. So uh, in a month, if it will work, if it will not work at all, and then I will switch my strategy to do graphic design shit like for real, for real, for real, and
Uh,
uh,
so
and
because
then
you're
I
doing
will.
all of that, you can't work on your graphic design
Yeah,
projects.
I cannot multitask, dude. I cannot fucking write a fucking resume at the same time fucking work on some infographic or some shit. No, I cannot. I can do this at
Yeah,
my job.
that's understandable.
Yeah. So there's just too much. I need 8 arms for, and I have only still having 3 arms.
Sending out as many resumes as possible. You work part time. It's a struggle.
Mhm.
It's a struggle. So once you
Also,
step out of
I
that
don't.
struggle, what then?
Once I'm stepped out of the struggle, once I get the fucking stable job, 9 to 5, no bullshit. I will not. I will have an unlimited contract. Then I will finally my inner garden. That's the thing. If comparing it to gardens, it's really fucking easy. Now my garden is messed up, and I can only work on the exterior of the garden. But there's a lot of shit inside that's just not fucking fixed. But the resumes, I mean, that's quite easy. I just have to be a nice boy and write a nice resume. But the portfolios, man, the portfolios basically are that's the when you give your portfolio, you basically expose your inner garden. And fuck, do they have fucking messy portfolio? It's too fucking bad. This is actually also quite a problem. But I don't give a fuck right now because it's good enough, the portfolio. And in 1 month, if it will not work or if it will work, I will get stability, or I will get some. I will go back to my family, and there I will also have like a stability. Then I will work on the inner garden. Yeah, or and maybe I will expand.
It doesn't take much time. every day to work on the inner garden.
Does, dude, it
In fact,
does.
it's not even every day.
Dude, it does. But by the way, I have to go to sleep. Uh, I fucking hate sleeping 8 hours a day. So now I sleep 9 hours a day. Only
It's
way
pretty
that
big
I
brained. I used to do 10.
you sleep 10.
Yeah?
Maybe I should also do 10, because 9 is actually also not fucking enough. So normally I go to sleep half 11, and now it's 11. And it's bad fucking news because there's a chance I will get sleep deprived tomorrow.
All right. Well, go lie
Hey,
down, Timur.
yeah, but what a nice talk, dude. Thank you, Mr. Therapist.
No problem. I'll invoice you later.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Fucking horse fucker. Mm. Oh, look who's here. Hello, hello, hello. Hello.
Does he believe in demons
Hello.
now or what?
Almost. Soon he will be corrupted. I have laid the seeds.
Does he believe in chaos magic?
Not enough, but just enough that we can get him where he needs to go.
Yeah, he's partially right. You don't. It is just something that anyone can claim to do. You don't have to read a book to do it. However, you do need your mind to click to be able to perceive that shit, which would require an initial experience as a point of reference. Because, like, I'm open to people doing stuff like that. I just haven't. I don't say one way or the other, I just say it's possible, because I've never had it. All I have right now are waking dreams. Now, since I went to Kitsune's house, where I'm just walking, I'm just standing around or lying down, and suddenly I'm in a dream, but I'm awake.
That's fucking cursed. Kitsune did that to me over voice chat. And I decided it was not for me. It was not for me to walk around my house while I was on the bed laying down.
Yeah, I don't even fucking remember what the last one was. I was gonna write it down, but I got distracted. I'm pretty sure I was killing something. I was at least fighting something. I have.
Spirit world shit, demon shit, it's just, you have to be into it. You have to be into it.
Definitely before going to Kitsune's house, I didn't have waking dreams.
Yeah, no, this is confirming an experience I had where we talked about that shit, and Kitsune was like, yeah, you can do like spirit nigger shit. You just lay down in bed or whatever the fuck, and you just kind of focus on doing that, and as soon as you drop asleep, you're not really asleep. You can just have the outer out of body experience. And I was like, okay, Kitsune, it's 4 a.m. and going to bed. And then I lie down, and then I get back up and I head to my doorway, and the entire time I'm like, this is fucked. This is absolutely fucked.
Yeah. It's like I don't make a conscious decision to do it. I'm just like lying there, and then I'm like, oh shit, here's the vision, and then you just kind of roll with
It's not
it.
really so much a conscious decision as like just opening your mind to it, and then Kitsune does some crazy shit.
Fuck.
That nigga cursed, and then it happens to you. So what? You've been walking around your house even though you've been sitting, been doing that nonsense.
Not particularly. It hasn't been like enough like the real world that I think that I'm in the real world. It's like I feel like a visual stuff happening, and then I see that it's getting more potent, and then I decide to just let it keep going. It's kind of like I was staring at a chaos sigil, and I was just like the black star surrounded by like a flame. As you focus on the center, it's like the fire turns into spikes. You know, like that visual stuff happens. Like you have to just keep staring, and you just let it happen, and the visual gets more strong. It's like that, but it's not like staring at something. I'm just fucking lying there, and I let it happen.
Yeah, it's not. It's you're definitely still dreaming, and it is still your faculties are still the same as they would be in a dream. But I guess you are in. Yeah, you are interacting.
Definitely seems
With
to be
something,
dream
but you're just
mechanics, but just the fact that
letting
you're
yourself
also
be pulled out of body.
yeah. I mean, the first one was kind of fucked up because I was moving diagonally right through a fucking forest that was turning more demonic while I was in Kitsune's house. I was just lying there letting it happen. And then I decided, okay, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna get up now and canceled it out.
You have to be into it. It has to be your thing.
I do need to collect these references because the plan is that I want to write something that is actually, as I write it, step sideways and actually feed the spirit nigger shit into it. So you can depict the things happening as accurately as possible. Because if you do that, you are tapping into the universal thing that all humans resonate to.
Uh huh.
If you if there's a few depictions of entities that are universal to all people. So if you drew that and had it do its thing, it resonates with everybody.
Are you saying that you're going to try to infect umbral space with your ideas on purpose?
I, it would be weird to see the Ouroboros thing happen with the realm of ideas. Or like you bring the ideas into the people to feed their ideas into the realm of ideas back to the people.
Be a little bit more articulate in explaining that.
So, bombarding people with spirit stuff that resonates with everyone. So it affects a mass of people who put that into the spirit nigger shit. And it's like a circle.
So it becomes self-reinforcing.
I suppose, yeah.
So you want to play Warhammer.
Basically.
Well, you're not the first fucker who got that idea. But single-handedly moving the collective human unconscious is the achievement. People are content just being a large part of it.
Well, that would be a side effect that would happen. The big thing, though, is tapping into, like, if people get fucked up enough, they see Hindu gods and stuff. So you would depict sensations and entities that everyone resonates with, so they feel more of a connection to the thing that you produce. Like, so the mind, its faculties get represented a lot through these things, through representations. If you use those representations and what they do, you represent the mind and its faculties for the people perceiving it accurately. Like, there's only so many ways to tell a story, and there's the perfect way to tell a kind of story.
You're going to go into world of abstracts and find the platonic ideal of the story. Take that and then do what with it?
It's a test it's a test to learn from by doing it, and it also would amplify your product and possibly have long-term consequences on society.
Possibly. Everything has a little bit of consequence long term on society.
Yes, but the consequences of doing that on a large scale.
So you need to embody ideals, use ideal forms, make an ideal craft so that it can have the greatest effect possible.
Yeah, as great as possible. Except the weird thing is that I don't know if certain media was doing that in mind, or that it told a story and now we think that is the ideal. It just worked. It just they just made something really good. But as I say that, I'm thinking of something like Earthbound, which explicitly has void meditation depicted in it, and psychic powers, and a cosmic horror.
I have the troubling feeling that what you're describing is similar to what ideologues are trying to do.
In that Only in that it is a system of ideas with an ideal in mind. If you want to stretch ideology to its broadest definition that ideologues often do to cope with what I'm saying to them, and that you cannot interpret reality through a doctrine that you, this political or economic doctrine that you worship.
No, I understand. What's so despicable about them is that instead of taking the abstract, of harnessing it, fitting it into a craft that they can then use for something, they fit themselves into the abstract. They give themselves to it. And so it warps them.
On a level, we are all doing that. However, they're doing the lazy thing that everybody does when you don't know anything about a field, is that give me anything to know about this field. Okay, this one article. Okay, now I know about this field. And then you start from there. So that's the level that they're at.
The Dunning-Kruger effect is the real cause of all human misery.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Because, like, if you just feed anybody what you call, you sell them what they think is the esoteric workings of reality through usually politics. It's almost, for the most part, through politics every fucking time. They're like, now I understand all the things between the lines, why things are. It's because of insert conservatism or something. It's because the free market dictates all. Except whenever I don't like it. Because I know what God's will is. I know the will of the invisible hand.
So putting truth and its power in the hands of these people, which is really any people, invites the hubris of using that to inflate their ego, become arrogant.
Yes, and I also become arrogant, which is why there are these methods to try to keep that in check.
So keeping arrogance in check, keeping the ego in check.
Then the
Keeping
arrogance.
the thing that feeds on that in check inside you is the key.
There's also the arrogance of knowing that, of thinking that you're keeping it in check and such. So you have to. No, it's who started?
Recursive.
Yeah, recursive. But I was thinking of the individual. Which of the three coined that? I know it was Aristotle, Plato, or Socrates. You do the recursive thing.
Point what?
Coined, he popularly coined the recursive thing where, like, I know that I don't know that I know that I don't know, or whatever. Not that I know that I don't know.
I don't know, man, was Socrates.
Yeah.
I know that I don't know is one, but that's not what I'm thinking of, unless that branches into that. I know that
Is
I
it
don't
like-
know.
Is it like
I
one of
only
the
know that I
Eliots?
don't know is Socrates.
Is it like Zeno of Eliot? I don't know.
Does it?
Or
Does that go into recursion though? Does he expand on that? Because I don't remember.
yeah, there's like one of them, like one of these pre-Socratic philosophers, I think. But
Ah,
or no, that's maybe that's Parmenides. I kind of forgot.
It was one of the fucking three. I'm pretty confident, but I
Oh
wouldn't be
yeah,
surprised.
yeah, yeah.
but it's like about being, like he talks, or maybe that's a different one you're talking about. But there's like a
I could be wrong
pre-Socratic.
completely.
Yeah, he's like Parmenides, and he's like a pre-Socratic philosopher, and he has like this idea of like being. And he's like, can you imagine non-being? No, you cannot. Like, there's only like being. So becoming is an illusion. Like, he tries to make that kind of like ontological argument.
It's just it's like an adage about just like extreme introspection that they were going off on.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
how
Yeah, that's a different
introspective. It's just about how introspective and self-aware can you truly say that you are.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's like one of these then, but yeah.
Like
So the point is that self-awareness has its limits.
self-awareness
spectrum.
doesn't exist.
Yes.
There's like a really interesting one in India. I think is more interesting than all the other ontologists. He's like Naharuna. He's a little more interesting. I have his book here, and he's a lot more interesting in his philosophy about emptiness and how, with a bit of logic, he just shows you're part of that emptiness, and basically all you are is just like some sort of blip out of it.
Well, the Easterns go into it in a different way in that
Yeah.
you have to realize that I don't know if they knew this a long time ago or if it's recent, but that you have to realize that you can't be self-aware because it's impossible to be unfiltered through yourself because you will always filter shit. You can't have the absolute truth on that. And then the Greeks went at it to show the potential of introspection and that it can go on infinitely.
Yeah, that's true. They identified themselves with their discursive thinking, their logic, and they were like, well, let's see how far my logic can stretch in the universe and encapsulate it. Which ended up being a very powerful tool in Western history. It ended up like leading to the scientific revolution in the end, but yeah, it had its limits, and it's like very hard to convince Western philosophers now of the limits of logic. And if they're like getting countered, then like some person says like, well, there are limits to logic, well, then they will say like, well, then reality is limited or something like that. Like they will not believe that beyond logic there are other avenues or other parts of the human psyche that can be used and extended upon. Like for example, like dreaming. Like they will see that like as a completely illogical activity, and exploring that and extending that they see as a complete waste of time.
That is why
Extending logic beyond inductive logic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why people have to break away from conventions because you have the proles who got a little too lucky who just preach the good word of science or preach the good word of whatever without really having an actual awareness of existence.
The funny thing is that, in a way, like when you look at a lot of occultism, which is like the point I'm often trying to make here, but I think some people kind of miss the point. Like it is empirical. Like occultism is you do a thing has result. I tell you to do the thing. You also have the same results. That's basic empiricism. But the problem is that people kind of think that scientific inquiry is like only true logic and only has to follow like a material setting. It cannot have like a spiritual, like a mind setting. Like they don't want to actually like be busy with that, and they also don't want to consider the option that you can have like other avenues of empiricism. So basically, sigil magic is a form of empiricism. Like, you test the grounds, and we're like trying to figure it out. And the funny thing is, like, when you're confronted in the beginning with the how to say, like, you try it out and you notice some faults in the system, then it's immediately used as an argument, like, okay, you shouldn't even do this anymore. But that's not scientific. That's like not a scientific attitude to immediately say, well, your experiment failed, I'm never going to do science again. That's kind of basically what they're telling about the occult. Like, they do a thing, they do the experiment, it doesn't work, and they kind of immediately say, like, well, this whole enterprise seems like a waste of time to me. Nobody would ever say that about a scientific experiment if it failed. Like, they would immediately get back to the drawing board. And that's what I feel a lot of people with the occult are doing for some weird reason. I think it has to do with the Western psyche being too infested with the idea that logic is the only way to look at the world. And if you're trying your empiricism out with another look, it's already treated as very, very, how to say it, with a lot of skepticism from the get-go, yeah.
Yeah, someone along the way, because this scientific method isn't so bad on its own, but just the fact
No.
that the individuals attached to general science also had to shill their own opinion on things, that no God, no spirits.
Yes.
It's another part of the human drama, or rather the human tragedy. There's not much comedy.
Yes.
Just like empiricism is yet another ideal or extreme, and ideals and extremes are not of this world. The human hubris is to try to reach for them and never get there. Perfect truth, perfect empiricism, perfect logic. Whoever can deceive by purporting to be able to do that, as science has learned to do so, wins the hearts and minds of the masses.
And a lot of it is whoever can just get there first, coupled with being the authority of the status quo that will provide them comfort.
Well, wanting to embrace the extreme is temptation.
So, like,
it's human weakness.
Just like with the triangle is there. All we can do is channel it through ourselves as best as we can.
Everything is a triangle. Do thing don't thing. That book you recommended, Dutch, I've been reading it.
I posted 2 books. I kind of forgot which one.
The one about Nazis getting really, really autistic.
Right. Yeah.
Alternative history.
Yeah. The one
It's like
Arctos, yeah.
It's just a compendium of autism.
Yes.
And it's wonderful because some of these theories are wonderful. Some of them are awful. Some of them are just. In fact, I read. We were in voice chat. I read off the origin of the term Aryan, and it can be summed up as some German guy was so mad about Jews, so mad about, in fact, anybody who was like Jews, Semites, that he decided, we're going to draw a line, and we're going to draw it at the German border. Everything under it is a Semite. It has nothing to do with me. Me German, I'm going to circle around everything I like. So we're going to circle Germany, we're going to circle Scandinavia, maybe even England.
Hmm.
and then we're gonna go all the way to Siberia. And you know what? I kind of like what these Indians are doing. Their religion, it's the whole Vedas thing. I'm gonna take Himalayas. That's mine. And you know what? Fuck it. India.
Exactly.
Me, German, and Pajit. We're the same thing. We're the same thing. Nothing to do with these disgusting Semites. We are Aryans.
Is that the wait? What's his name again? Is that the
I
Argentinian guy or no?
No, it's a German fucker who coined Aryan by saying
Oh yeah, okay, okay.
that Germans and Pajit have a common origin, and that they are the true overmen and fuck anybody who's tan except Indians. I guess he's never been to India, probably.
Yeah, he kind of assumes that upper castes are like a little bit tanned, but like
Yeah,
Italian
that
tanned, yeah.
idea. Me and ancient Indians.
Right.
It's pretty funny. But the book is supposed to address
Oh, it also
how
addresses pole shifts
cosmo.
and everything. Yeah.
Yes, it's focusing on cosmology as a way of understanding the progression of essentially the world, reality, life. You know,
Yeah.
the humanity and the theoretical previous races and so on.
Yes.
The pole shift thing is something I've already encountered before that, and yes, it makes perfect sense. Even like in Christian circles, like they're like, yeah, that's clearly Genesis lines up with this. It makes sense. But then knowing how it actually took place, whether like Skydad showed up and took the Earth and he just tilted it, just put his fat fingers on it and just, and then that's how it worked, or whether there was some kind of cosmological event, how it ties
Right.
into the flood, what's the time frame, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Great book.
It is a great book. Wait, I'm gonna like go through the
And the
contents of it a
interesting
little
part
bit.
is that the reason we have it is because the latest iteration of people getting autistic about that are the Germans
Mm-hmm.
because of their big existential crisis during the 19th century.
Yes.
And probably the only ones who have actually bothered to leave any accessible source. I bet there's a bunch of think tanks in New York that do nothing but this, but they don't share.
Probably. Very likely
So
even.
they all we have is autistic Nazis from 60 years ago.
There is an interesting book I have from, well, I wouldn't say that he's much of an occult researcher like John Gray. You probably heard of him before. He's more like interested in political philosophy, but he wrote this book about like some of the more out there autist ideas of the Soviet Union, and they had them too. Like, but they were more like they had this idea of the how to say. Uh, Reaching immortality. They were really obsessed with like alchemical type stuff too, but
Yeah.
they always try to frame it in a Hegelian way.
They were inheriting the legacy of a bunch of Hebes running around using the state to do whatever the fuck they wanted with it. The the Perfect Man, the New Soviet Man project is the best known
Yeah.
part of that. Um, that was a kind of later Soviet phenomenon.
Right.
It
In
wasn't.
the
It was in the propaganda, kind of, and it was in that same like zeitgeist where the Nazis were doing it too,
yes.
and the Americans had their propaganda about how they were the alpha males and so on. So it's opaque. Nobody's ever going to really know. But what we do know is that the Americans poached all of that research directly.
Yeah.
It's like a paperclip style, just seizing of everything they had. And hey, want to push the limits of nature? Want to play God? I'm pretty sure, the scientific community is far more ahead on achieving that than people give them credit for, but all of their efforts will always be held back by the fact that they are a community. They have a consensus. And so you can't go around talking about ancient Aryans in New York without at least just framing it in an unsympathetic way. It might offend people, the idea that, God really, really is upset and he's a motherfucker. He really just is cruel. Cruel. He takes the earth and he tilts it 23.5 degrees so that there are 4 seasons. And then we're
Right.
fucked. And so that when there's a bad winter, the Mongols invade, kill 200,000, rape what's left.
It would be
Those
absurd to
kinds.
assume, yeah. It would be absurd to
So
assume that, like, ever since the Nazis, the elite have not been considering crazy ideas anymore. So,
it's paradigms. Like you put it, like, tying back to, you could say that there are different orders of logic.
yeah,
Orders of logic that require degrees of faith. You don't need a lot of faith to understand that the apple falls.
right.
You need a little bit of faith to get in an airplane for the first time into, it's not going to drop. Millions of people have gone in the airplane. It's not just going to fall out of the sky. You're still kind of, that's my,
Right, yeah.
one of my grandmothers swears she will never get in a plane again. Never. You need a
Even
little bit of
after
faith.
even after she experienced it
She tried
without.
it once.
Oh, okay.
But then you need a lot of faith. In fact, you need some kind of approaching religious faith to start considering the idea of God twisted the earth around a certain number of degrees. Everyone seems to agree on that, the human race is kind of like this outgrowth of this apocalyptic event 14,000 years ago or so, and it has all of these characteristics, and it lines up in all of these extrinsically intelligent ways, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Degrees of faith. You need a little bit more faith than you do in science for political things.
Right.
I think the core is when you're looking at what the subject is. The subject of science ultimately is rocks, it's matter, it's gunk,
Mm-hmm.
it's fire. It's not a particularly noble. It's the basest thing that exists.
Right.
And you take it a step away, politics and so on. Your subject is man. Psychology, your subject is man. Economics, your subject is man. The humanities. And that requires a little bit more faith, because it requires a little bit more faith in your fellow man in a way. It requires faith because you're going to see things that challenge you as a man, as a person, as a human being. And then when you start stepping beyond that, you start realizing that there are parts to you that are being challenged that you didn't know were there. maybe you can raise the idea of soul, maybe you can talk about your astral manifestation, and so on and so forth.
Well, there is a point to be made about the occult that I kind of have to believe in you that you have been empirical about this and not been making that stuff up. While a scientific experience in the material world, I can actually see you do it, but I cannot see you do shit with
Sorry.
the occult.
Has this been peer tested?
Exactly, right? So, I mean, like, you can tell me your dream tomorrow and it can all be bullshit, or it can be true. So, I kind of need to believe in you. But I think that's kind of like also a weird new advancement in human history where we have grown skeptical of people, their spiritual experiences by default. Like, and that we kind of attribute all of it to just some shit your mind makes up, like steam. Like, consciousness is just
Faith
some
is the
steam.
enemy.
Yes.
Even just material knowledge, they had to start somewhere and assert something without having the entire understanding. Well, they still don't, but having a big understanding of what the things we're using is actually made of and how it works, but that it still has applications.
Yeah, the early technocrats, your pre-industrial technocrats were fucking madmen in modern terms. Absolutely insane.
Like the guy from the Holy Roman Empire. How's he called again? Like Rob? Fuck, I
Not
forgot his
even.
name.
Yeah,
The
yeah. There's plenty.
He was like really obsessed with the Hermetica, and to the point where he even had John Dee come over and do some shit.
There's also
Oh yeah, I have to work on my equations. Time to have spirits. Let me know.
there's also just like even going way earlier back, like around the Greeks, trying to figure out what element or what material is made of, and they were trying to say that like water and stuff. In China too, the elements. They usually have to start with like a handful of elements, like the four elements, 5,
They
6.
have to start with a metaphysical framework. But you see, science has become agnostic. Science hasn't even become science anymore. Science has been abandoned. All we have now is technology. Technology is just about creating things that are reliable, theorems that are reliable. There's no need for the metaphysics, for the first principles. In fact, the first principles are being rewritten. And the most famous rewriter in our time is allegedly Einstein. Relativity, the general theory of relativity. Everything is relative. We were talking about Tesla. Tesla abhorred. I think the way he described it was a pauper disguised as a king was the specific phrase. He looked at relativity and thought it was retardation.
There was a lot of opposition at the time that theory was put forward. But nowadays it looks like it was received. Like that's the story they tell after the fact, where it was like, yeah, where it's like it was like generally received as a genius insight, but it wasn't at the time. Just like Darwin, like that's also one of the things. Like Darwinism is like shown as this like big advancement, and everybody in the world was applauding. But that's really not the case. That's actually not the case with any scientific theory or any scientific theory that ever happened. It was always massively opposed. And
Yeah, he went on a trip to around the world, and then he came back and he said, "So basically," and then people just were like, "You're fucking retarded, dude."
Christians straw manning the hell out of him, drawing pictures of him as a monkey.
The usual go-to.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the
well,
best part is that nobody ever really bothers disproving shit. And that's the real strength of the technocracy and the scientifics and so on.
well, like you say, science has become like a pursuit of technological advancement and like a technology of one particular kind too. Like if you look at like the original, well, this is like a commonplace piece of knowledge, but most scientists before it became like this technological, how would you call it even? Like it's almost like
A
an
technocracy.
enterprise. Yeah, it's like an enterprise to increase technology. And before that, science was like considering all avenues, like Newton did. So, and now all of a sudden it became this, nah, let's just increase technology. And if it doesn't help increase technology, it must be some kind of nonsense.
Increased technology of technocracy. You
Yes.
see, the goal, the subject has changed.
Yes.
Instead of the universe being the subject, the purpose, instead of matter, basic things,
Yes.
I think it's become a kind of usurper trying to go into higher orders of logic with the same tools.
Yes.
What they're trying to make now is the final, the end game, the final play, the final scene is AI. Because
Oh,
once they
yeah.
have AI, that's it. They've played God.
Yes. That's
They've
their
won it.
ultimate aim. Technology becoming conscious.
Creating consciousness, period,
Yes.
and
Yes.
being able to expand that. Um,
The enemy was always consciousness in a way.
and that was always a matter of going up, replacing animals with machines.
Yes.
And then you replace consciousness, and then you replace their maker. And then end scene. Man has finally reached its hubris. And then I don't know, Sky Dad shows up and instead of twisting it 23.5 degrees, he twists it 720 degrees and then everybody's dead.
Right. Sky, that is the enemy.
Yeah. But when you consider that, whether you agree or even think it's, you know, you don't have to like Sky Dad, but Sky Dad did twist the Earth 23.5 degrees and it's been fucking you up for millions of years. Well,
Yes.
14,000 years. So at some point, you do have to consider that you might be wasting your time, might be arrogance of doing your very, very best to stick it to Skydad
Right.
with Gangster Robot God. As entertaining as that's going to be.
They literally call it the singularity because it's like the solution to all their problems, ideologically, practically. Yeah. So to them, that's the singularity. That's the final point.
The theory of everything.
I've read 3 separate books from technocrats that are called The Theory of Everything.
If given enough time, I could make the
3.
theory of everything, starting with psychology. We have to
And
start with the
what? One of them
consciousness.
was pretty good. I read that book by the guy with the highest IQ in the world, and I forget what the fuck the cognitive something model of the universe. Essentially, the man with the highest IQ in the world started off life finding out that he was pretty fucking smart, so he just did math, and then he figured out on his own, that the universe is kind of like this world mind. It is kind of sentient in its own way, and he modeled it. He modeled it mathematically, and then he said it's God, and then people just laughed him out of just the scientific continuum. And now he has a horse farm, a horse ranch somewhere in America. And that's all he does. He takes care of horses. I think he was about to release another book. I'm going to try to find who the fuck that guy is. I read another book called My Big Toe, My Big Theory of Everything, Toe, about a guy who kept on ranting about astral projecting. Still a technocrat, but it was pretty fucking vulgar. All he could talk about was astral projecting, how he is creating experiments and workshops for people astral project, and he kept on talking about how there are many worlds, and our goal is to order all the worlds. Technocrats. And then I read another one that was pretty basic, bitch.
Now, well, technocracy is a technocrat is a broad term, like, because if everything is mathematical or a binary system, depends if you use that to explain things that aren't in the scientific consensus right now.
Yeah, there we go. Christopher Langan, known for the cognitive theoretical model of the universe. Essentially a guy who mathematically proved just metaphysics. He did the thing. He did the meme, and he was just people. Literally like Prophet Man. He shows up, and in maths, he just writes down, okay, so there's this kind of like abstract God that is the entire universe in a mind, and your mind can influence the universe because the universe is mind. Put it into math. He put it into math, and then people were more than dismissive. So let's see, Mr. Langan.
Okay, you post. Oh, did you post the this
Post what?
guy's the metaphysical math guy?
I'll post his Wikipedia article.
Yeah, I kind of want to check him out later.
I tried to read his shit, but it is, it's fucking like, I'm not big brained, not nearly enough for that.
Right.
Look at that smug fuck. One of the highest recorded IQs.
Unreliable. What is the source, though? I want to know.
The technocracy hates this guy. Just fucking despises him.
They just slam him down with just one bracket. Source. I guess it's because there's not a link. There is a description of the source, but not a link. Whatever. Yeah, the problem is trying to speed up, even using technology and math and science to shift human awareness of existence forward too early.
Oh, yeah. So he wrote a little book called The Art of Knowing, Expositions on Free Will and Select Essays last year. No, wait, no, that was 2013. I thought he was working on a new one. Huh. Well, I guess you could read that if you cared. You were saying, Dag, I'm sorry.
Nah, that was basically the end of it. Let's see. 3. I was just saying mage. Would
Yeah,
be funny.
basically mage.
Would be funny to drug trolls and throw mage at them while they're high.
It could
Because
be done.
like just a normal prole and just start telling them about the real history of the world.
Wouldn't it be fun to just throw all the data at someone and, tie them down and force them to listen, and then just continue bombarding them with the information until what?
Just to see. Because they will freak out. It'll just be the funny thing. Then if they believe it, that'll be more funny, and then if they reject it later, that'll be funny.
Of course they'll reject it. People are the way they are for a reason.
Now, when it comes to fucking with proles, it just comes down to theatrics. Because then they go,
It comes
bro,
down to theatrics, to crafting the right story,
you fucking with me
tying
right
them
now.
to a chair and forcing them to sit through an extended course on mage.
And bro, you fucking with me? No. And then that's it.
Bruh.
Bruh.
Seriously.
Bruh.
Demons.
Bruh, no. Bruh, seriously, tell me. No. Because that's also what I do whenever I'm way too high.
Uh,
Hmm.
Being high just kind of opens your mind to it. Kind of makes you susceptible.
Yeah. The ego is a shield. If you don't have the shield, then you're going through the warp without your Geller field on.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to. It's why you train people to let their ego down so the teacher can indoctrinate them.
Indeed. And, well, sure, you can do that, but to what purpose?
Personal amusement and research.
Perfecting the method.
Well, actually, because when he's converting people in real life, I've kind of burned a lot of bridges, but I might step back into some people's lives, wait for them to
So
get
when you
high.
really turning into a Jehovah's Witness?
He's at least recruiting people into house games. He has about 3 or 4 people that I know of.
Fucking fed. I know they're on their guard. Nobody actually fucking trusts me that I know in real life.
Now
Or holds me in any high regard.
it would be funnier. It's funny because I just might seem like a kind of unhinged but down to earth guy, whereas you seem like a consensus enforcer. So that you can fuck with people from that angle. I'm more like a hippie who's kind of edgy.
Every Ascension War tactic has been tried. From kidnapping them, making them listen, to subliminally filling their environment with the data, to being the hippie, to doing what you've described, and so on and so forth.
Time and place for everything. Generally,
Indeed.
tricking them into thinking that they wanted it, or that they're just discovering things on their own. Usually the go-to way.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it is.
That is why I think that reality is the perfect hell to throw people into awakenings, because it's the ultimate way to trick people into thinking they have choice and are learning things on their own and don't have anyone specifically to blame for their existential pain.
Or you could go the easy route and just form hordes of cultists to whom you have fed the lies they wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's of course the cultists, though. But
Which outnumber everyone's a cultist in a way.
we're all cultists too. Whoever's higher up the ladder.
Conspiracies against conspiracies.
Piling cultists on top of cultists.
Because the general point is that compared to the infinite, we're still not infinite.
The cult of pleasure, the cult of access.
Well, we're doing our damnedest to reach the infinite.
One space shuttle at a time.
Yeah.
Just do it with an AI.
The AI is taking the lowest order of reality, matter, and turning it into the highest order of reality.
Interesting that the most famous historian at the moment now is this guy called Yuval Harari. You probably heard of him, right? Like he's like everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And his base, like all his books are about, is basically like anticipating the AI. So it's
Harari,
all about AI. Oh yeah, another.
another disgusting, filthy. I'm not like him at all. No relation to me. I'm descended from Indians. Uh, you know how this works too? It's literally just forced on people.
Yeah.
They take these guys, another University of Jerusalem guy. There are a lot of guys out of the University of Jerusalem that end up being like the figureheads of a consensus in a specific humanities. Kahneman comes to mind in psychology. Oh, that guy who Homo Deus was in every. Oh, that's him. That's this guy. Homo Deus.
Yeah, Homo Deus. Yeah, that's his book.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It doesn't get more as sign of the times as Homo Deus by Yuval Noah from the University of Jerusalem. It doesn't get more sign of the times. I remember seeing like at least two of my classmates in every classroom had the fucking book on their desk because they were intellectuals and they read the tough stuff. They read Homo Deus. Yes, sir. And it was in every bookshop and everywhere. It's everywhere.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere. He has a new one out. It's like I don't know how many lessons for the 21st century or something like that.
You know, Imperius and his gang, instead of writing shitty blogs about attentionality, if they just, made sure that this guy just stopped writing for some reason, he just, I don't know, something happened and the book stopped being published, they would have done a lot more for their cause. But no, it's about them. It's about being a published academic. Me, my ego.
Just the fact that you literally have to shit out papers to help your own career prospects.
Yeah, he's putting himself through the most degrading thing someone in his sort of sphere could put it oneself through. And no,
It's gonna take a sec, right?
it only reinforces his say getting Imperius and strapping him to a chair and breaking him down. That would be an interesting experiment, because now it's not about awakening some normie. It's about exercising some guy.
Exercising the ego out of a guy who has a good foundation of knowledge.
Exactly. Who has an actually strong ego, a fucking ego you can't really get past.
Because you have a 105 IQ, and what else did he throw at people who are not fit for his ego? Like
White
you
trash.
don't have a master's or something like that.
See, being called white trash was it
Yes.
hurt because I know I do that. It hurt not because I am white trash, but because I see myself in him, walking around just calling people white trash.
Mm-hmm.
You're fucking white trash.
I also do that. I was working next to someone pretty young, blasting Sweet Home Alabama, and I was just reflecting on.
Sweet home Alabama.
I was just reflecting on how when a prole wants to listen to music, they just think of music as just called music. Turn on some music. Play music.
Mm-hmm. I want food. I like music.
Give me food. Thanks for the chips.
We have a guy from the Nightmare Labyrinth in Alabama, a Brazilian man who married an American girl from there and is now living there. And probably one of the more psychotic members of the Nightmare Labyrinth. I don't know if we'll be able to get him out of his fucking hole. In every sense of that word.
I can think of 3 interpretations.
Yeah, probably those. The guy would threaten to kill his own mother when she didn't do something he liked.
I did that when I was a child.
Yeah, he did that by like fucking. The guy is a fucking madman. It was from the early days of Nightmare Labyrinth. You'd be in Skype and then you'd hear some yelling and then you'd see him walk because he's really tall. He'd walk around his house like visibly threatening someone, and then you would just hear shit. And the next day would be like I left my house. I think I killed my brother. Be back in a week. Sweet home Alabama. See, individuals like that have something, but it needs to be channeled. It needs to be controlled. It needs to be given structure, form. Else they just go around killing their family. Sweet home Alabama.
Yeah, just through interacting with people, I start picking out their impurities and finding out what their tools are, and realizing if I could just destroy this person, they would rebuild better. Whereas, your normie does not have the tools to start with. You at best make a cultist, even if you do your best work on them.
Well, it is about transmuting the worst parts of a person into something of a higher order. And so you have to start with someone who's insane, in pain, has the wrong instinct, has something really off balance that can then be balanced out by creating something new on the other side of that. Most normies are either balanced, or when they're imbalanced, they're all imbalanced in some sense, it's fucking irrelevant because it's a negligible amount of pain. It's a negligible amount of derangement.
Is it a negligible amount of pain? Because they do seem to genuinely be in a lot of pain, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's similar to, like earlier on in your life, if you just, the pain you feel, where did that take you compared to where pain takes you now?
Yes, the ignorance. Just ignorance does cloud pain. Pain is so much worse when you know, when you are. They used to perform surgeries on babies without anesthesia. That's it. That's essentially it. When you're not in control, when you're not cognizant, when you don't understand, then it's just stimulus. It's just your meat sack freaking out. It's just your basic mental functions looping into what they're supposed to do, and then you see them inflict themselves into situations or inflict direct pain on themselves over and over and over and never learn, because it's not really pain. You keep making the same mistakes. They keep asking where their pipe is and keep yelling Garfield every single time, because they don't actually do that consciously and so remember and learn.
If they
And
even
build from
know
there.
that Garfield has their pipe.
Yeah, their body yells Garfield, but they don't know what Garfield is.
You know what? You know what encountering the Godhead Samadhi is like? It's like if Garfield shows up in front of you and just starts shoving pipes into your head more than you can smoke.
An interesting perspective.
Like that comic that Kitsune was posting. where John was suddenly riddled with pipes into his head.
Sweet. Oh, an actual. See, what a meme article. But perfect. And it ties into that discussion of everybody's apathetic kind of thing. Actually, I should put that in audio channel subtitles.
What?
When the boomers die off, who's in charge?
It's a boomer article. Boomer article
It's
about.
the ultimate. Yeah, it's a boomer hedge article about boomers whining about powerful millennials. But what a convenient list, right? These are the most powerful millennials. What a collection we have here.
Who are the most powerful millennials?
Well, apparently, according to Boomer Hedge, it's these 5 guys on the avocado toast. Kushner, Kim Jong Un, the regent prince of Saudi Arabia, Zuckerberg, and this guy in the middle. I'm trying to find out who that is. They don't recognize him immediately.
Meanwhile, the other millennials, the millennial masses, are sitting around eating Tide Pods.
Yeah, like they're not important yet, but once the boomer finally fucking dies and they are replaced, this is the kind of people that we're going to have. Who the fuck is Stephen Miller?
I don't know.
Yeah, all these people were they're like a decade older than me.
Oh, he's a political advisor to
Advisor.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, he can suck my dick.
I don't even know who
Important
that is.
wires.
I've never even heard of him. Because
Yeah.
Donald Trump's fucking advisors is like a revolving door.
This is just a boomer pick. This is a boomer, the second of 3 children in a Jewish family. This is just a boomer way to complete the top 5 list.
He calls them the power millennials.
The power millennials.
Fellow power millennial Jared Kushner, who allegedly gave advice on how to controversy over ordering the beheading of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Fellow power millennials. Like power armor, power weapons. This is the boomers' attempt to esoterically connect all existence together.
On an avocado toast.
The world, the universe is a slice of avocado toast. There are the millennials, and then there are the power millennials. It's like the universe is more than just an elephant standing on a turtle, holding up a disc.
It's also avocado toast.
The
Holding
universe,
up a slice of bread.
Universe is a cat feasting on a slice of avocado toast, where we exist.
The world is elephants standing on a turtle, carrying a giant disc on their back, on which a cat smokes a pipe.
They're carrying the pipe strip on the disc.
The disc is the pipe strip,
The disc
but
is
the only
literally
three-dimensional part of it is the cat.
the disc is the pipe strip because the pipe strip encapsulates all worldly affairs.
Clouds are just the pipe smoke. And so you look up to the sky and you ask yourself, now where could my pipe be? And you see the smoke. And you follow the smoke in the sky to its source and you scream, Garfield.
Screaming into the void, Garfield.
See, it would be a much better psyops to kidnap someone, strap them to a chair, and then just put them in front of like a projector screen with the pipe strip and keep rambling about it. Just never break character, never divert. Just keep talking about the pipe strip until they break.
That's what that video was.
Have people switch out so that Guantanamo style, they're in there for days as people tell them about the pipe strip.
You know, like I was reading how the technocracy was screening that cripple into becoming a hit mark, and it has that Chinese philosopher telling him the real history of the world, the order of reason and shit. So you just have them getting screened with the real history of the world about the pipe strip.
I always figured that this type of stuff would be a great exercise for people you want to fast forward along their process. Getting someone like Timur and forcing him to do that. He would suddenly, in the role of the prison guard in the Stanford experiment, find his faculties quite easily.
You know, and it works because he wants to escape out of duality, so he can go into the Trinity. As long as he pretends he has to forget that dualism exists. Because as soon as you acknowledge duality, it's too late.
You scream, Garfield.
Man, the pipe and the cat.
Man, the pipe and the cat. I want to give a TEDx talk someday about the pipe strip. Just completely plagiarize the lasagna cat video, but turn into a TED talk. I've always found it odd that you can go like what television tells you, because television is more than reality, is that when you step into the madness and you step into esoteric pipe strip dialectics, and you go into thinking that a gigantic comet was sent by God to orbit the planet Earth in a spiral fashion, and as it got close, the ice age it first caused when it approached Earth turns into a gigantic flood that kills the giants that were produced by the lower gravity of the time. That isn't nearly as troubling as mundane shit. But television tells you that should drive you insane. That you should be rolling around, foaming at the mouth, having nightmares about the stuff. But my nightmare last night was going to the beach and being so frustrated with having to be at the beach with the normies that I pick a guy who's lying down at the beach by the feet and start swinging him around like a kid. Just swinging and swinging and swinging. And then I spot a metal garbage can not far away, and I keep swinging while I'm moving, and he's spinning around. And then I knock him against the garbage can with full momentum and kill him and put him in the garbage can. And then I wait for the police to come arrest me. That's what I dream about after reading about how a comet caused the biblical flood.
I was running from furries trying to board me, and then I called a guy an incel and threw him across a theater.
I feel so sorry for you. Have furries in your dreams.
Because I watched a WebM of... I can't even explain it. It's a meme. So doesn't matter. But, the thing is that when we refer to the mundane, we just refer to it as the consensus for the sleepers, whereas they actually take it as this is just how things are. It's like...
There's no duality there?
It's
Garfield!
I don't know what it is, but... What was I saying? It's like, the problem is, like if we look at it from our perspective, then it's like, because like I was explaining to Kitsune why I'm interested in psychology and how society works, is like, this is the only, like this is the only way that material manifests. This is it. This is how it happens. You have a sex culture that the same things are happening, but people have to do more work and are more unstable. Or arguably, the stability is arguable, but they have to do more mental work. And like, this is how material manifests. And then the mundanity, it's just... Because even Grogan espouses that, where he smokes a joint and he's like, holy shit, we're like fucking monkeys. We're monkeys staring at LED screens.
Yep.
But that doesn't branch. Like, he said stuff, and it would be right if someone else was saying it. Whereas when I hear him talk about how he acknowledges that there's animals still living in extremity and that nature has not changed around us, like the wilderness is still the wilderness as it was a million years ago, or at least thousands of years ago. I know that he doesn't understand the true suffering and existence of the animals, but he is still saying something that's arguably right and resonates with me, but not for the reason that he thought.
Paradigms, man. You can know the same things and not know them the same way.
Because if I just gave him some input, sensory input, then he'll be more aware and akin to the suffering he speaks of. And he might get more than a jester flipping him off in hyperspace.
Here's my perspective, and it's kind of the same thing as I said before about signs and so on. It's a paradigm is just a projection of your will. It is the ego bubble. It's you're taking all of reality, and there's one point in reality that's you, and you're drawing a circle around that. And everything in that circle is everything you know, is all of reality that you can perceive. And you're arranging that as a paradigm. But you are a point that moves. And the point of your ego bubble, like a Geller field, is to navigate the warp to where you're going. And so your ego bubble will kind of extend towards the thing that you're going to, but you can't perceive it. And that's the issue. You can be someone whose goal is to understand black holes, and your paradigm, your ego bubble, is going to extend towards this unknown point of black holes that you only have this vague knowledge from. The closer you get, the more you know. But that is going to designate what your paradigm is going to be as it progresses in time. What you are using as the subject of your paradigm, the subject of your progression, is not the same as Joe Rogan's. Joe Rogan's progression, Joe Rogan's subject, is probably something as like fucking petty as shelling kind of alternative facts into mainstream culture a little bit. Maybe it's feeling like he's doing the good thing. Who knows? But it's not the same as you, and that's why he'll never see things the same way as you, even if you tie him to a chair and keep talking to him.
Yeah, it is a projection of the ego bubble. It's just it's your ego, because we can't be any more than an individual, so it's just our individual understandings. But you know, with Grogan, it is actually like we have to. I just think that we have to be refreshed on things like suffering and anguish, because we will forget about it in time unless it's happened enough over enough time. And then that will affect even like your spiritual experience, and it affects the subtle parts of understanding things like what he says about nature. It's like it's good, but it needs work.
Mm-hmm.
I
Your
think
ego bubbles, your paradigms overlap, but you're not going the same direction exactly. You're not. because with the same information, the same overlapping part of that paradigm, you're not doing the same thing. So it's not about giving him more information, although giving him more information would in theory be a way of adjusting his paradigm to be more like yours, of course. It's about changing his direction.
He can go on his direction, say the same things, but it would help if he like got dragged down and destroyed at least one more time. And then
Dragged down and destroyed is the process of changing directions. It's making him stop.
Just drag him down, destroy him, and then let him go back to exactly where he was before. And then
you're making him stop, and so he'll have to reconsider his direction.
I just want to amplify his awareness in basically the same things he's already talking about. For his own experience.
Drag him down, destroy him, and then you put him back. Does he just become Joe Grogan, the radio host plus? Or does he become what you're hoping him to be?
He would essentially just be exactly the same. I wouldn't be able to know, and maybe I would be a lot like that if I was in that position. Just like what he's saying is so good, but I know that he is deficient in his own understanding of it. It would just be for him, for the own subtleties of his awareness, and just he can just go back to this exact same spot, which would probably happen. Like, if you paid me to talk about shit every fucking day to millions of people, that would probably be the result. And then I should be destroyed. Because if I achieve any success, I should be destroyed and dragged back down to remind me of things before I can go back. But I can just take drugs for that because I already have that. Because that's already part of my toolbox.
Changing directions. I'm just saying. You're not changing Joe Grogan and his paradigm, you're just making it progress towards a different direction.
I guess subtly.
Take another example of what I'm...
I know what you're saying.
Like the system I'm trying to build, but direction is important because it's towards something, and that something is important too.
But I do think that his paradigm is to have more awareness of things. And it's just...
I don't think so.
Because we basically do the fucking same thing, is that we try to present truths outside of convention.
I think that Joe Rogan has an interest in all of this stuff, but it is subordinate to his interest in whatever the fuck he's trying to do as a radio host, in his own self-image, and feeding that ego.
Yeah.
If I dare say, Joe Rogan is corrupt.
He is... Like, it is that ego that is partially corrupting it. That's why I feel like I know what he's saying resonates with me, but I know that he more, and he needs less of his ego there. Because I would probably make it at least a yearly thing to go full retard and spiritually destroy myself so that I can remember what's important, what's for channel reality more. So I guess, yeah, his paradigm, I would be changing it.
Has Kitsune given you the rundown on vibrations?
I talked about a lot of shit that we didn't record. I don't remember.
Vibrations would be something you'd remember, no?
I'm pretty
Well,
sure
if
he
you did
fucking
talk about
rambled
it, you should
about that.
remember.
No, we legitimately, like, were talking, like, nonstop. But, yeah, you've
Okay,
said the
so
vibration
what I'm
stuff.
trying to, well, in the conceptual, higher vibrations better, lower vibrations bad. Everything is a vibration. Think about it in metaphysical terms. What you're talking about is that you need to reach towards one extreme and then willfully go back to the other extreme in order to progress. And the faster you can do that process, the faster you can travel between two extremes continuously, the better. The ideal being that you can almost destroy yourself in every second moment, with every first moment being a moment of attempting something that then builds you up. Success, that's vibration. A low vibration, a low frequency of doing that is a normie whose ego death is on his deathbed. He's gone from one end of the extreme to the other in 80 years. Whereas you could be doing that on a daily basis, higher vibrations. And when you extrapolate that outside of things like what you're describing, that specific phenomenon, those specific two extremes, you find the same thing. That the more something vibrates, the more something is animated with energy and travels between two extremes fast, the better. The more virtuous, the more ideal it is.
More activity, yeah. I want to make their existence more active in every waking moment. But I don't know, because, like, even in ignorance, your emotions are still so extreme, you just can't, just don't allocate resources to reflecting on it or thinking about it. Just 100% monkey.
Mm-hmm. Cattle. Cattle is helpless. It is a it has purely materialistic purpose. Its subject is of the lowest order, materialistic. So until it's raised out of being cattle by having its direction, its subject change from material to something else, it will remain that way. Which is why, the ideologues and so on, the pole kitties, and they are retards, and they absolutely are stepping into the warp and getting shredded apart by demons, but they took the step. They changed their direction from being a purely materially oriented normie to being maybe a more humanistically oriented human being. two extremes. The midpoint theory, I would say, is humanity, because humanity is just studying the humanities. Studying humanity is just a stepping stone. It's just a part of the process and going to the other extreme. Trinities are just dualities with their midpoint. We've got the Christian Trinity, which is Jesus, which is going to be the man.
Death Man, Cat, John,
You've got
Pipe.
God, which is going to be your metaphysical extreme, and the Holy Ghost, which is going to be the grave, the material, the kind of lowest thing, lowest iteration.
Cat, the Void,
The
Death.
Hermetics are all about realizing that you as a human being, that you as a human don't actually exist. You are just the meeting point of the duality of the higher order, which is going to be the metaphysical and so on, and the lowest order, which is matter. And you can keep going with all of these, like, different schemas and ideas and so on.
Isn't that with like the Qliphoth and the Sephiroth too?
Yeah.
The lack
Except the Qliphoth
and the
and
thing.
Sephiroth takes it a step beyond. It's an actual instruction manual on how to on reality, on how to find intrinsic design and intelligence in reality and talk to it, affect it directly. Kabbalah in general is what I'm talking about, not specifically the Qliphoth and so on.
Yeah.
And it's a tool. Jews they took it, of course, because they took everything, didn't they? But it's been handed down. The farthest you can trace it back historically with any kind of evidence is Egypt, but word of tongue and so on, and
Yeah.
word around the campfire is that it's antediluvian old.
Yeah.
In the biblical paradigm through Noah, but it's antediluvian old regardless of however the fuck it came through.
Generally, like with Gilgamesh building an ark and shit.
And the antediluvians were dabbed on because of specifically shit like this. Because they were driving their flying saucers around at 300 miles an hour, talking to the spirits of the world, and being general jackasses. So the good Lord said, no go. You don't talk to spirits anymore.
Eastern religion's getting most savagely fucked out of anyone.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's left? Buddhism is a successor.
And worshipping a cow.
Worshipping a cow is the literal aboriginals of southern India and their shit that they're projecting onto Hinduism. So it's not entirely fair. It's not its own thing. I think the spiritual successor to antediluvian religion and spirituality is just Buddhism. And in the West, it's just Christianity and that whole fucking continuum.
I kind of think like if anything survived antediluvian in the West, it's mostly Hermetic texts, which are quite obscure still to read, even for us, I feel. There's a lot of gaps in it. And of course, there was like an oral tradition next to the Hermetic texts and like a tradition of initiation, and that's supposedly what Masonry is, but I don't know. I don't think Masonry really has retained a lot of that, and it's become more like a glorified golf club in many ways, and they lost as much over the years as any other Western, how to say, like archive of that antediluvian knowledge.
Yeah. No, I think they have far more than they should be allowed to have.
Oh yeah,
But it's locked away somewhere and it's only privy to some people and the internal politics, and they form a consensus, and so they lose their individuality, so on and so forth. Indeed, they're all these very egotistical people, and even though they throw maximum information at their ego, the ego filters, and so they never get where it counts. It ties into the majesty of all of it being this beautifully orchestrated play where full of ironies, because it is a drama, but all the jokes are at our expense.
now one of the things that I heard of an actual, let's call him some sort of infiltrator of Jews, he kind of told me that the whole way, I'll show you, the Kabbalah, like the way the Sephiroth map looks like I'll show you, there's like a crucial difference between a bunch of them. And he told me that actually the rabbis on purpose have made fake maps of the Sephiroth in order to cause confusion. Oh yeah, you know that one. No.
It is such a mess. It is like it's like conspiracy on a scale you cannot imagine, where they steal this ancient knowledge, counterfeit it, and then redistribute the counterfeit on purpose.
Yes.
On purpose. They've been pushing Kabbalah in all sorts of circles and making it fashionable, but it is like the fake version. And it's so obviously botched too.
Yeah. Like the first one is the fake one, and the second one is the actual real one. Yeah. The extra roads are not really necessary and are actually
it looks broken, the first one too.
Yeah, it looks very broken. And this is the one that they usually like. You usually will find books and so forth.
And the most important part of these roads is that they don't intersect.
Yes.
But in their fucking thing, it intersects.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so they're basically just presenting like a whole raw map of the universe.
Can you literally?
Or rather, the metaphysics.
It sounds tedious to say it intersects, but the whole point is the paths don't intersect, and so you have to choose them.
I was just about to
go up the tree in a specific way.
Like, just looking at it is so fucking absurd because of how it just totally invalidates the other one, what it's trying to do. And like, so can I literally go from you can literally go from the middle one to almost anywhere, for one thing.
What's the middle one for? Remind me.
Tiferet, that's kind of like the Logos sphere. So
Yeah,
it's
there we go.
like, yeah.
But
so
it is lower reasoning.
Yes.
Wait. Now the Yeah, no, the middle one. It's, so hold
Different.
on.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Because now the lower reasoning becomes.
Wait. So
They
wait.
actually got their hands on it. Yeah.
Let me. So let me. If I'm going from the middle to the top, I can stop at the intersection and go to the right. In the first
Basically.
one.
Yes.
So I don't have to go to the top. I can just take a turn to the right.
Basically, yeah.
You have people walking around with tattoos of the wrong one.
Well, I mean, I can sympathize with making a fabrication of actual occult shit to dispense
Yeah.
proles, as mentioned.
Extreme rat man. Yeah, there's no more Jewish than making a counterfeit of the right thing to make people lose the right thing in focus.
They also have this concept to choose that if you study the Kabbalah, you will go insane. That's their favorite.
Boy, don't do that. You'll go insane. You'll lose your mind.
Why Jews are more inclined to have schizophrenia by modern medical diagnosis.
No, they are schizos. They are stupidly. It's like beyond superstition. It's just a neurotic tick to them to be superstitious about shit.
They have that psycho stare that I mentioned a long time ago. Like, why do you look so funny at me, boy?
Yeah.
They do. Like when you, like I know a few, and when you sit down with them at a cafe, you have a beer, you look them in the eyes, and then they have like that sudden twitch in deep in their eyes, and it's kind of like, oh, is that like the murder stare or something?
Dag, I should drag you around, and we should all go to Israel. That would be a great thing to do. Go to Tel Aviv. I need to sit you down in front of actual Jews and make you have a conversation with them about anything, and you will have the worst feeling.
Yes.
Especially if they're older. Especially if
Yes.
they're older and they're ripe. They're
Yep.
ripe in their Judaism.
Is it like you're interviewing them about their book and then they go, just admit that you're a leftist?
It's so much worse.
Oh yeah, it's like you're talking to your
Take it
future
more constant. Take it more condescending, like they're talking to their dog, and then
Yeah.
take it even more detached, where it's not even conscious. They're just doing that. It's just you're watching a meat puppet, and then make it worse because it's not even talking about something that's like in consensus or it's like a fashionable thing to say, like basically you're a leftist. It'll be about them. It'll be about you. It'll be like, so you're telling me that I'm this.
So you took me onto this show because I'm popular and no one's ever even heard of you?
Yeah, like that, but it'll come out natural. It'll come out very natural. Like, boom, you saw it pop into their head and they just spat it out at you, and then they wait.
And that is like prole schizo. Just compulsively is vomiting whenever dysfunction happens.
You'll listen to the recording of Clone Kike, my former teacher. On one of our first classes, he just said, "You stay after class," and I was like, "Oh fuck, what did I do?" And so we get to the end of the class, and he kind of pulls me apart physically, of course, because you know that they'll do that. They'll grab your sleeve and like lead you around. He leads me to the back of the class, and he sits me on a chair, and he starts lecturing me about how he feels like there's something wrong with me.
Oops.
I just feel like, like you can't do this. Like this thing, this essential human thing that everyone can do, you just can't do it. They're your friend, but they're not your friend. And then the Jewish kid in my class, who by family knows the teacher, of course, just wanders over It was perfect. He just wanders over and just the elder is speaking, so he shuts the fuck up and he sits and listens. And eventually, this guy starts getting angry because I'm emptying my head and I'm just there, just blank. And of course, the June wants the feedback, right? But there's none. It's just radio silence on my side. Eventually, he gets angry and he starts saying, "You have a snake in your garden," and he has his finger against my skull. Do you understand what that means? You have a snake in your garden. That's their final form.
I for some reason am familiar with their psychic vampire tendencies.
Oh, I have a story too. Like this is also like there's one like of course like you guys know there's in Taipei like a whole bunch of like an enclave all right now of them, and I know one who managed to whine his way into getting over 2,000 euros of aid from someone because he kept on whining about his business and like not going well, and the guy had so much compassion with him that he ended up like paying like some student tuition he needed. Well, it wasn't like 2,000, but it was like was like 500 euros. It was like 500 euros. He ended up like, but he needed to pay a total 2,000. But he got like 500 euros just because he kept on whining about his business not going well and everything like that. And like, and he does have that tendency to whine all the time about like
It
this or
comes
that.
natural.
Yes. There's a lot of whining about with them.
These like very delicate things to do. These interpersonal kind of things that they're difficult to pull off. Especially like you have to consciously put effort. It just comes natural. It just rolls out.
Always pity. They always pull a pity party. They are like it's like you will not see it coming, but it's like a pity party. Always about themselves.
They always will mention, like, if there's two or more in an area, it'll come out. I'm Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm like, so I'm Jewish, and like my mother is from there, and it's like, and you're sitting there, and I'm like, why is this person telling me they're from a Russian Jew family? Why? Why are they
Yeah,
doing
why?
this? I just met them. They don't know my name.
Mm-hmm.
You put it well by saying it is like prol psychosis, because it is very basic. It's very basic, bitch. It's not exactly harmful. It's not. It doesn't have big metaphysical ramifications. But once they awaken and once they get ripe, it goes into overdrive. And then it is like my clone kite professor asking the universe for parking spaces and getting them.
Yeah, they are dangerous when they awaken.
They do have a habit of getting what they want. That's true.
Asking the universe for parking spaces. Get into that frame of mind. When you're talking to God and you're saying, give me a parking space. Yes, hello, God. I know we haven't talked in a while. Give me a parking space. It's remarkable. And they are so offensive because they are essentially the peak specimen of the modernized human.
One could even
They are
argue
modern
that,
man.
basically, you could even argue that Jews already were modern before, like 1,000 years before it ever started to burgeon. So,
1,000 years? They were modern in Egypt, damn it.
mm.
They were the Babylonian overclass, the aristocracy of that time. They've always been modern. It's always been this continuum of people coming from the modernity of something and ingraining themselves in upper classes and aristocracy.
Oh, I think like there's like an interesting passage in Spengler's book where he talks about that, where he is like talking about like Jews, they're made for the cosmopolis, and they will immediately, like when a civilization develops into like Europe or Babylon or like any of these other civilizations that follow
Taiwan.
each other. So as soon as there's like a cosmopolis, like they just thrive in it and they just go to it, and then they are like fish in water.
I don't remember if Spengler covers it, but the part where the Russians gave them land, gave them farming tools, gave them
Yes.
protections.
Mm-hmm.
They came, they sold the farming tools, they
Yes.
sold the land,
Mm-hmm.
they killed the army that was sent there to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they moved into ghettos in the cities and
Yes.
said, make me move. Make me go back.
Yeah, they're not at the agricultural phase at all. They're in another phase.
And that's not a dozen of them. That's like 100,000 of them at the time. But they are the overman. They are modern man. They are the perfected form.
Yes.
Their weaknesses play into their strengths. And so it becomes instinctual for them to do things as simple as begging for money for their business.
100%, yeah. And running all sorts of schemes to run all sorts of black budgets with pedophilia, with whatever trafficking is
Cattle.
needed. Yeah, drugs, kids, anything to have a black budget.
Absolutely.
I mean, the whole Epstein case should make everybody like wake up a little bit, but it would not.
The
And it will not.
weaknesses play into the strengths. Their weakness for indulging to these kind of things plays into their strength as influential members of the community.
It's funny that they, like, for example, they will have all these theories. Like, you will usually see like Jewish philosophers, sociologists. They will always talk about like the crucial institutions of society that you need to control in order to, or that the people, they will never say them, but that the people need to control to change their fate. Like, for example, Marxist theories or Gramsci or whatever, they will always say like you have like important institutions to control. Like, for example, you need to control the whole, let's say, productive class, and then they made like industry. But the weird thing is they will never like really control too much industry, or they will, and then they will downplay the cultural industry. They will say like, yeah, that's not really important. You don't really need to control the cultural industry. That's beside the point. You become a celebrity, really? No, that's not the point. You don't become celebrities. The real crucial thing is like blah blah blah, like, you know, the whole thing. But then where are they usually at? They usually the actors. They're the famous Hollywood actors, and they will be the ones controlling the whole movie industry too. They will control all the media. They will control all the finance industry, which they claim, even in Marxism, that it's not that important to control finance. All what's important is like you control production industry and all that stuff. But in the
what
end,
are they doing? In the greatest application of Marx's ideas, they're the upper class, and they're controlling the finances, and they're controlling the culture, and so on.
Yes, and that's the exact thing that they say is not that important.
40 years apart, with explicit adoption of Marxism. Yeah, and it comes natural because they are an organic part of the environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're the actors too, so they know they need to be the avatars, the cultural avatars, in order to have the whole cultural industry in their favor. Like if they constantly have like whites and blacks play the most famous roles and whatever, like they will lose power. So they need to have a few Natalie Portmans in there.
Yeah, they take the best and they put them where they need to be.
And they all change their names. That's also interesting. Why would you do that? Why?
Weininger in Sex and Character saying a great example to show that women have no individuality,
Mm-hmm.
and that the cause of that is that they fundamentally cannot possess anything because they can only want themselves to be possessed by a man is that they give up their name and they never feel bad about it.
Oh yeah, that part.
They
Yeah,
never feel bad about it. They never feel bad about giving up their name because their whole purpose was to be possessed by someone else. And you
Yes.
said, you know who else does this? Because they want to be possessed. Now, not in the spicy way, in the they want to be integrated by the society.
Yes. Just
They
like how they're doing
prostitute
in China.
themselves.
Yes. It's actually really fascinating to see that happen in real time now. Like what they did like 1,000 years or more in the West after Rome. Like what they're now doing to China and like Hong Kong, Taiwan, basically the Sinosphere. It's really interesting to see that happen in real time.
And they're more and more important because the world is more and more modern.
Hey, exactly.
Literally prostituting their daughters themselves.
Yes.
All of it. And they've always done it. And the dramatic irony is that the fucking grubs and the Aryans, what do? They blame Jews for the ills of modernity. Not the other way around.
They just want to have like a bunch of white guys also have Asian GF, so it's less obvious that they want Asian GF. They're actually like, you notice that immediately, like when you're around them, that they're running an operation. They're serious. They're not there for fun. They're not there
They're
to
calculatedly lecherous.
Yes. They're not there just to have like a bit of a good time. They're there to really
We need
not
to
just
get DAG exposed to Jewish women. And not just like any Jewish women, like upper class Jewish women. Dress him up nice, come him over, whatever the fuck. And then it just put him in front of them and just watch him fucking slowly be horrified.
Probably would be.
by her big thighs.
Yeah, the big thighs and the big breasts coming in. She's nice and just right thick from all the fucking kosher eating there. And then then you start feeling the vampire there, the hunger.
Well,
She starts
then,
asking you about your family.
She's bred
just
to
describing
continue.
just describing a vampire bloodlines scenario,
Yep.
which gives me
It is remarkable. I must be like 5 for 5. Party or whatever the fuck, normie outing. Alcohol involved, whatever the fuck. Jewish chick. It's not what's your job. It's not what you're studying. It's not really where you're from. Your family. And it sticks out when you actually keep a mental count of, your social interactions. No one fucking asks you about your family, but they do.
Oh yeah.
Right off the fucking bat when they're interested. Family.
They will say family is the most important thing. Over and over again.
And prostitute their own daughters regardless.
Totally.
But they are peak modern creature. You can't criticize them.
It's very
Even the peak
fascinating.
specimen.
It's like fascinating that they decided to continue their Jewishness through the daughter and not the son. That's very atypical for most people on the globe. Like you just need to like basically procreate with a Jewish woman. You've created a bunch of Jews, so there's no
because they're as Weininger put it so well, spiritually feminine. They are passive. They receive. They
Yeah.
modernity. The big modernity demon molds them.
Mm-hmm.
They give themselves to things, to institutions, to their habits, to cultures, and so on and so forth.
The thing, though, what I
And that's
find
why
interesting. Yeah.
the dutiful Jewish daughter marries whoever has a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm.
The Jewish man doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It always struck me how completely disaffected Jewish men were. Did not care. Procreation, fucking, even, it's just no. They all like prostitution, sure, but they all like prostitution to get away from anything family, any suspicion of that.
It's interesting that you say that because I do know one guy who has been living in Taipei for over, let's say, 2 years and barely had a girl, and yeah, barely
They were
wanted to
initiated
date.
into it by the older men.
Completely Volcel, completely.
Also, but he'll like indulge.
Oh yeah, he'll
It's
go
like
to Thailand.
no strings
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
attached. Yeah,
He'll go to
exactly.
Thailand for some fun. And there's a
I'm
lot of
Volcel, but I
Israelis in
love boy
Thailand.
pussy. I'm a Nazi,
There's a,
but traps. Guilty pleasure. What can I say?
there's a lot of them in Bangkok. A lot of them.
Asian
Israelis.
traps don't fucking count because Asians aren't real.
Do you think they know?
Like it really though.
There's an
You're
element of
inverting
chat body.
something that isn't really much of a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I can't empathize with the chink because of my facial blindness.
I don't know. There's definitely something to like whenever you mention that.
Yeah, there is something to it because Trap Central has always been Asia, and they all seem to be okay with it. Everyone else seems to be particularly offended or excited about it because it's so perverse. But it's
Mm-hmm.
perverse in their minds. In China, it's like, so I have like 6 kids, and so we're gonna turn the guys into traps because they got to start, paying for themselves at 8 years old. Terrifying.
The interesting thing also is that in terms of their lenience is that they're out of all the people who met Jews, they're like the least likely one to kick them out, I think. Because
Yeah, because they blend right in.
And I think it immediately appeals to their sense of like money is important, and well, they're all about that.
Because I think that they are a lot more accustomed. Asians have always been more cosmopolitan.
Mm-hmm.
Always. More civilized. Let's put it that way. They've always
Yeah.
been more civilized.
Yes. Completely, to the point that there was like this whole stupid article that I read, but I kind of like it, that like penis size decreases with civilization because there's no sperm competition and all that sort of stuff. So they've been civilized to almost shrink as humans in both all sizes, basically. Like basically the size of basically their height and all that sort of stuff. That like if there's like less because like the competition they have is of a different kind. It's not like there's no really competition anymore. It's like you as an
yeah.
As an Asian, you
it's
really just get girlfriend. Like girlfriend will be managed for you.
get
And if you
money,
have job,
get girlfriend, get
yeah,
status, get safety, preserve for future generations. It is very elaborate. A lot
yes,
more elaborate than anything Europeans managed to do.
yes,
Stupid whitoids.
Like for example, like there's like it's pretty common knowledge in where guys will pay you, if you're a girl, they will pay you, say, how much euros would that be? I'm gonna check like for a second.
I know the yuan conversion, right?
It's, well, let's say
About
600 euros. They will pay like 600 euros an hour for with a girl, and it's a date. And they don't even want to fuck. They just want to have her for a few hours on a date, and they will pay her 600 euros per hour in order to just have her around. And these guys are considered winners in their culture. If a Western guy were to say, like, I just went on a date with a girl and I paid her $500 an hour, like that guy will not be considered a winner in our culture. But in theirs, he's rich, so whatever he does by default is a winner mode, you know.
I can just like picture the ancient Greeks, and one of them's a fag, and he shows up and he's like, I just spent 10,000 sesters buying a nice piece of art. And all of his friends turn around and just call him a fag. You fag, you like art, you fag. Faggot. Look at the faggot, he actually bought art.
Which is something that you would hear in our cultures, definitely.
Yep, it would be.
I heard Goku from Dragon Ball Z say that on a leaked recording. Look at those faggot ass clothes, fucking faggot.
That's the DBZ files. DBZ. Why do African Americans love it so much?
You know what? You know what DBZ does have is like, it has that fucking squad goals thing, where it's like that's how your circle of friends should be like when you're navigating the urban area, going to clubs. Like that's how your squad mans up to face the challenge. You all fly in, like the 7 of you get ready to fight the androids. Going in one at a time.
It has that tribal fighting aesthetic.
Yeah. You and the boys sally out, you fucking fly down. Start going in one at a time.
It's always... I've never watched DBZ, but I've had a lot of acquaintances, especially those that spoke English throughout my childhood, that were kind of into DBZ. And then I found out that black kids in America loved that shit. And when we were watching like those Hotep videos and so on, you have black people in the comment sections with DBZ profile pictures saying shit like, yeah, fuck white people. And it's just like, what the fuck is so appealing about DBZ that it just... And then, yeah, it makes sense because it's just like, it is like the aesthetic of just showing up, flexing your muscles and screaming.
Everyone has their fucking special technique. You show up with your dudes, you all have a shot at the enemy. You get knocked out, they give you a sense
like a
of being...
hunting.
Awesome, please.
Also, what was the other thing? Just the male role model thing, which is obviously deficient other places.
DBZ's my dad.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it just you as a kid, you're like, these guys could destroy a planet. They're the most man. They could destroy anyone I know in real life and other fiction.
You know, I think we're touching upon something, and that's that there are two extremes in society. The most modern man, which is the Jew, and the least modern man, which is the African. And everything is just a spectrum between nigger and heeb. And right in the middle, that's the nigger kike. And the nigger kike is a white person. That must be how it works.
Sacrifice them.
I'm gonna get my notebook. I'm gonna make a big chart going from nigger to kike. This has to work. This has to work. This kike here. Draw nigger. 6, 3.
The dark gods command me.
3.
Sacrifice them.
So, who is the most optimal mix of nigger and kike?
There is a black Jew celebrity. I think it's Will Smith or somebody.
No, not mulattoes. Not mulattoes. Let's start
spiritually.
archetypal races. Yes.
White people.
More than Asians, more than Indians.
Asians
are definitely more on the kike spectrum.
Asians are between white and Jew. Hispanics are between black and white. Now whites are really the human of the fantasy race world.
Arabs.
Arabs and Hispanics.
Are Arabs closer to niggers or are they closer to kikes?
Linguistically, they're supposed to be, but
spiritually,
do they temperament? Yeah, that's true. They are closer to Arabs are closer to nigger, absolutely.
But I also put Arabs and Hispanics on the same exact level.
Yeah. Hispanics. Arabs. Like white people. And we can like look into the different diasporas, the different ethnicities of white people. You could probably put them on a spectrum.
You can break white people up into which way they lean.
Yeah, in relative terms, rank them. Let's start with English people. I think the perfidious Anglo is, well, interesting. See, higher caste Anglos, remarkably kikish. Lower caste Anglos, remarkably niggerish. I think the Anglo has foiled this spectrum so far as a homogeneous whole.
Well, I mean, if you you can't break it down that much because then you just have wealth classes fucking it all up.
To be fair, it's because the higher castes because it's a caste system in England because they're different ethnicities. Okay, let's start with something simpler. I'm going to start with French people. French people, they're next door. French people. More kike or more nigger? Because on the one hand, they are pretty nigger. They love niggers. They're overrun with niggers.
I think French would
They
be
sure
in the
love
middle
niggers.
just for their fucking history.
Yeah, but they are also very, very, very kikesh at times, and in their interpersonal culture.
They
I think
invented a
that's a
lot
good
of
middle.
those political.
French. Yeah. Indeed.
You know, it's
French. Right
it's
in the middle.
very nigger kike to be so rebellious and innovate those theories to rebel.
Peak nigger kike. Fusion of the two working together.
And it makes sense
Hmm.
because of where they are and what they look like.
Let's take let's take Russians. Russians are technically European, so let's take the European part of Russia. Very niggerish.
They could be the most nigger of anyone.
I think that the guy from the plan to replace white people and so on and so forth talked about creating white niggers and designating the Russians as the most suitable. So I'm going to put Russians right near. Who's the most kikesh though among Europeans?
Where are the Anglos on that?
Yeah, see? Do we put Anglos up there? I'm going to leave Anglos for later because Anglos are a question mark.
Germans. I would put Germans where Asians are. At least. Germans are basically.
Yeah, Germans are appropriately between Russians and French.
I don't know because they have a lot of the template. It's just that of where they were geographically that prevented them from being like China, where they could not resist the friction and cultural osmosis.
I don't know. I don't think they're very cosmopolitan at all. I think Germans are very proud about being not cosmopolitan.
I wouldn't call them nigger though.
Well, closer to the spectrum. Let's move on. Because we're trying to find something that's really close to Kike, as close as Russians are to niggers.
Probably just the Anglo.
Well, who's the best contestant? You know, the Swiss are pretty good at this. The Alpinoids in general. The Alpines. I'm going to put Alpines with a question mark here.
The lowlands are pretty kike.
The lowlands are pretty kike. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Although, to be fair, the lowlands also have very niggerish characteristics about them.
What about Belgium?
It's just taking a chunk of France that's very cosmopolitan and calling it a country. See what I mean? It's not really an ethnic group. It's like a tax haven, you know? It's like a pocket of cosmopolitanism.
The Dutch are very kikey. They're like no, very greedy. It's like the stereotype.
Yeah. Dutch. You know, I'm thinking of the southern persons, and they're not actually very kikesh at all. Disappointingly. You know, you're right. I think that whole pocket of Southern Anglo and the lowlands really just take the cake for kikery. They really do. So I'm going to put Anglo plus Dutch.
If French are nigger kike, then the Anglos and Lowlanders are definitely up the kike.
Kike. Yeah. So I put them up there.
But I don't know, because it's really fucking. Because what about
makes sense.
what about the fat, ugly, retarded Anglos or like?
Well, see, they're not British. There we go. That's the distinction. They're not British. They're Scottish. They're from Wales. They're Irish. They're not British.
What about
British, the Brits.
North versus South?
Exactly what I'm talking about. South are the British.
It's both the North
They're the
and the
kikes.
South. North and South are both ugly
No.
retards.
Okay.
I'm saying North and South with an F.
I think, okay, yes. The British, when they designate themselves as British, they mean that pocket around London. That's what they mean. When they say English, they mean the island. And when they mean from the United Kingdom, they mean the United Kingdom.
I'm on fucking
British-
England.
British is like a designation of saying Scottish. You're from Scotland. British means you're from Britain, which is the part of it.
Yeah.
Capiche?
I'm
It's a
on
little like the
fucking-
Dutch saying they're Dutch because it's a piece of Germany.
I'm on fucking England. Kick the fucking ball.
Brits? Alright, where do I put the Scottish? The Scotsmen. The Celts.
I
You
would
know what?
put
Let's
all
just put Celts
Northerners
because they're the
together.
same as the Irish. North. Celts.
Celts don't really do anything though.
They're pretty niggerish. Wear you down, obesity, footy, all the wonderful things of the world, but they're not quite Russian yet. Russians just like there's no civilization there.
Our Nords, Chinky.
Scandies are definitely kikish. Because they are very cosmopolitan. They love their cities, Scandinavians specifically. Yes, I think Scandies tend toward kike, but they're not quite there. They're kind of like how Hispanics are not quite niggers. Scandies. Scandies here.
From an Asian-centric fucking... Someone broke down Asians and they would have their own way of saying the Southerners are fucking niggers.
Yeah. But it is like ethnic pockets is really the point. The Cantonese. So where does this put Germans? I guess the easiest part is, are Germans more kikish than the French? Or are they more niggerish? Because Germany and France is remarkably similar.
I would honestly say more kike. They're... Like I would
more cosmopolitan than the French.
More, no, their demeanor is more kike. They're more chink and autistic. They're more hive city people.
All right, let's just put them right above there. Germany. Where are we missing? I guess the Eastern Euros.
Meds.
The Balkans. Oh, yeah, that's true. The Meds. Forgot about those. Spain.
Definitely nigger side.
Yeah, definitely nigger tending.
Too lazy to be sufficiently kike.
there's quite a bit of kike in there, but yeah, much lower. Kind of not quite north. Not quite north. Probably between North and French.
Put them between half nigger. No, put them between quarter nigger and French.
Yeah, that's where I'm putting them. And put Italy in there. Put Greece in there.
Or no, third. I guess that would be third nigger.
Well, actually, if the Nigger kike is 50-50, they're more of a 40-60 looking thing. Because they've got 12.5, so that would put them at a 38.5, 62.5 split.
Yeah, just between third nigger and the center.
Yeah. Kikes. We've got Scandies, we've got Brits towards kike. You know, it's strange because Italians are remarkably kikish. They're very cosmopolitan. Very fond of the swindling and the commerce and so on.
Yeah. Put them
breaking my head here.
Put them with Germans.
I do think the Germans aren't there. I don't think the Germans do not tend towards kike at all.
Well, there's not
sufficient.
There's not a. You would have to make a third axis for, like, what's the word? Like, role, slave.
No, that's not my point at all. You have the factory idea of Germans. That's what they promote. That they're factory, very orderly, and so on. No, they're not that at all. In practice, they work the same hours as the rest of the Europeans. They're not. They love their forests. They love going out in the countryside. They are not cosmopolitan at all, and they do have their chimp outs. I'm going to put them right under French because it's not fair to call them kikes. They're next to Spain. I would actually say Germans are far more like Spain, like Spaniards, than anybody else in Europe. Whereas Italy is remarkably similar to the Scandies, is the way I'm seeing these things. Germans in practice, they're not. No. No, they just don't have it in them. They're not a very commercial people. They're not a very cultural people. They're not all about that modernity at all. Sure, they make cars. No, doesn't make sense. Doesn't stack up. They're very about honor. It's not very kikish. Italy and Scandies are reputed for being dishonorable. Traitors, even. No, this just balances out. The Balkans. Yeah, I know. You see, like Northern and Eastern Euros are just a spectrum of Russian, of between German and Russian. And Southern ones are just All right, so the way it goes, from most Kaikish to most Niggerish, the ranking goes Brits, I would put Italy, then Scandies, then the French, then Germany, then Spain, and the Russians on the nigger spectrum. So I guess, what this reveals is that the peak specimen is the Frenchman. And there's something disturbing about saying that, really.
Or at least the peak might.
Nigger kikes. Well, it's 2 a.m. Here I am rambling about nigger cakes again. Hebe grows. You should give that book a read.
Which one? The sex book?
No,
The cognitive universe
that's for
book?
you. That's for your personal development, so that you can reflect on holes and read the obvious. But the cost, because it is just an anthology of Nazi autism and everything that contributed to it.
Wait, which book?
Let me try to find the actual title. Something polar. The Polar Myth and Science. Erectos. From Jocelyn Godwin. I've uploaded it 3 times already. One more. Oh, and you're the guy who can't read.
I mean, maybe sometimes I break down, I just start binge reading shit.
Best of luck. Just trying to upload it. Open file location. Come on. All right, I put it in audio channel subtitles.
Put it in my book folder.
Never read it again. I think it would do wonders for you right now. It would be food for thought on the ideologues and so on, and all of the zeitgeist that produced it.
You know, honestly, that's kind of the downside I've noticed, is that I didn't want to read because I found my own shit out, so I didn't really have a reason to read the works of intellectuals and philosophers. But now I'm realizing people literally just pick up like these books or excerpts from them and then just make that their paradigm. And if I read the book, then I would be able to just disassemble them because they're inevitably misinterpreting it.
And there's useful pieces. It's more data.
Yeah, they might articulate
It's
an
always
idea.
more data.
Yeah. They've actually gamed to train a child to have empathy is to just make him read biographies or the works of philosophers.
I'm gonna want to look into Napoleon at some point, but I can't. The thing about him is that it's It's like Hitler, but so much worse. It's just everything about him has been buried, and there's every conflicting opinion you can think of. Because that nigga was a Hun. That nigga was the Genghis Khan of Europe. He just came from absolutely nothing. And yeah, sure, he did the conquering stint, but that can be just being the right guy at the right time and being good at it. But he did a lot of other occult shit. Invaded Egypt just for that purpose. There's a lot buried into that of him doing a lot of things that don't make sense, and a lot of people around him being there for very specific reasons. It makes Europe look like it's in some kind of occult civil war at the time. And like he's just the figurehead of that. The
Not
civil war being sparked by the two revolutions.
not too far off from being an occult ascension war.
Like the more you look into it, the more it is just fucked. Just like just secret societies and all of that just occurring around that time. Right at the start of the 19th century. It really makes that gap in history that comes before World War II make a hell of a lot more sense. As people look into these like biographies and stories of important, powerful people, because they're like, how did he do that? How did he become that? How did you do that? How did become a billionaire? Think and grow rich type of shit. And a lot of it, of course, is, well, right place, right time, right person. That's an important part. But then there's other bullshit too. If you're smart enough to abstract it from the right place, right time elements and understand what that is about. Instead of being like outright. See, nobody in the outright wants to be Hitler, do they? Because Hitler was such a mess. Just, he was not the right person. In no fucking way was he the right person, apart from his speeches and all of that. Or rather, he was ironically the right person. But he had the right place, right time going for him entirely. Nobody, no little Nazi boy dreams of being Mr. Hitler. Or some other fucking poster boy for Aryan supremacy. Nobody actually dreams of being Bill Gates. They all want to be Steve Jobs. People get it. People get the right place, right time. And then they see a little bit of that right person. They get a taste of that. And they think, that's important. Something about that. how many thousands of Brads are starting up a company because they looked at some rich guy and they were like, that guy was the right person. I'm going to be the right person. And hope I'm at the right time and at the right place.
The funny thing is they don't even believe in the right time and the right place sometimes. That's kind of the irony of it.
They do, but they don't want to admit it to themselves because that
Yeah.
would destroy them. You have to be the right person for the part. And the more you understand the part, the more you can do that. The more you understand all the many different parts. And then some parts don't make sense. Some parts you wonder, what was up with Napoleon that he was the right person for such a tremendous part? Because being a hapless idiot is very often the right part for being a leader. The guy thought he was Alexander the Great. He charged into battle in his first battle. He tried to lead an artillery fight in the 19th century from the front because some guy 2,000 years before that did that. Why is it that Mr. Plato and Mr. Aristotle are the first fucking they're the first domino in that ends in the domino chain of AI gangster robot god? Was it just because right place, right time? And where does that start and where does that end? Right place, right time. It molds you. The time and place. But these specifically extraordinary people have the tendency to be anachronistic. They do it the other way around. Right place, but they change the place that they're in according to what they think should be right.
And then time means little, actually.
Yeah, time means little. I'm going to charge in front of a 19th century bottle with a saber.
Yeah.
It's like, how fucking insane do you have to be? And of course he got shot doing that.
It's like, didn't Weinecker also write about Napoleon?
Of course.
Yeah, I remember that part where he went on about Napoleon and great man of action and how they're close to prostitutes.
The great criminal.
Oh yeah, right. The great criminal.
Because
yeah.
he breaks natural law for his gratification, for his ego.
Yes.
And he didn't say that they were like prostitutes. He said it is natural for the conqueror to like prostitutes.
Right. Yes, that's the part, yeah.
The great conqueror doesn't like a mother. Yeah, there's something about that. I mean, Timur is a great conqueror waiting to happen, and he loves the prostitute archetype.
Oh yeah. He's not looking for any mother.
He's not looking for a mother at all.
But the funny
Not
thing
a
is,
mommy GF, man.
he's whenever I suggest he goes to, well, he's in Barcelona. There's lots of prostitutes there, and whenever I'm like, well, just go get one, he's like getting all like, no, I will not do that. But actually, I think he kind of wants like a free prostitute in a way.
We need to go to that segment and find exactly why the conqueror likes the prostitute, because there is something in there about like, you know, like submission and taking and so on. It's some specific part of the ego satisfied in it.
Yes.
The prostitute, the conqueror. Anachronisms. Yeah. Steve Jobs going to India to get high. Taking calligraphy classes. Anachronisms. Anachronisms. Perpetual archetype. By doing things that are anachronistic but relating to previous iterations of the archetype to kind of like summon it into you. Doing calligraphy so that you can summon in that archetype of whatever the fucking archetype Steve Jobs was channeling was.
It's like they're just avatars of context in a way, and context trying to change itself. They don't really
Timber
see.
really should go horse riding. Like really, really.
He's really the Mongol waiting to happen. And I bet there's a lot of Central Asian guys like him who just want to go on a horse, kidnap some girls, burn a city, kill
Kidnap some
everybody,
cattle.
kill
Me
everybody
and
in
the
a city.
boys kidnapping sheep, killing 200,000 people.
You just don't take a sale. It's like they really like, it's like Warhammer basically. Just raise it. Like there's like,
Yeah.
you have like only two options, or like three options: occupy, loot, and then raise. And basically, if they resisted you in some shape or form in diplomacy, you just always go for raise. That's basically it.
It's like you have the show mercy part, but it costs you like whatever fucking like our RTS mana pool you have. And it's like, oh shit, I'm never gonna be able to convince my guys to not destroy this entire thing. Kill them all. Sacrifice them. Imagine being some fucking pansy Arab in Baghdad looking over the city walls as Mongols are just screaming, sacrifice them!
The fact they really were like ordered to get two heads, all that sort of stuff. It makes Japs and Nanjing look like a tryout. I mean, imagine Timur with modern weapons.
Imagine, like,
This,
100,000 Timurs riding like jeeps across the countryside with 50 caliber mounted rifles mounted on the back of them.
I mean, you have
The
to imagine.
Toyota war, but it's Timurs just moving from city to city, destroying everything.
I mean, what is the death toll of World War One? Let's see. Well, military, it's like 5 million. Civilian death, it's like 4 million. Oh wait, no, that's one site. I want to check. No, I'm just checking one site. That 16 million people died. Total number. Wait, the total number of civilian is estimated at around 37. Okay, I thought so. Now Timur's campaigns led to the death of 17 million people. That's like half of, of World War One, and this is a guy with only like arrows and swords.
14th century.
Yes. This is a guy who only had at his disposal arrows and swords.
He killed everyone.
And basically,
everybody died.
And World War One is mostly artillery, right? It's like artillery piece after artillery piece, a little bit of machine gun. But most people dying in the trenches was just grenades and mortars blasting them to pieces. So
yeah.
And then air raids and all that stuff. But this was like modern equipment managing 37 million deaths. But Timur.
Timur and the boys, 17 million.
That's, yeah. Damn.
Fucking terrifying.
I mean,
like,
yeah.
Scaled to like the population of the time, that must have been like half.
Oh, yeah.
He just showed up and killed half.
Yeah.
Thanos style. He just Thanos dabbed across like all of Central Asia.
Jesus fuck. I mean, you don't want to imagine
of him too. Like you look at that fucker and you're like, yeah, he could kill 17 million. And nobody in pre-industrial times can claim to having killed as many as him, right?
Nope. There was the Taiping Rebellion, but that's already modern times, eh? So, I mean, Taiping Rebellion, how many are there? Let's check. Is one of the bloodiest conflicts in history. Estimated of the war death range from 20 to 70 million to as high as 100 million. 30 million fled. So the Taiping Rebellion might be the deadliest conflict.
Secondary effects.
Yeah,
famine and all of that.
Yeah, so it might be the deadliest conflict in human history, even deadlier than World War One. World War Two.
Yeah.
Wow.
Although a lot of it probably wasn't violent deaths.
Yeah, probably not. No.
Like we pity violent deaths. We don't pity the fact that
Chink starve. Which is their
Chink starve.
That's their usual. That's just a normal day in China.
Be American, get shot.
Be Chink starve.
Be European, get taxed.
Be Central Asian, get beheaded, get silver molten into your eyes.
Get looted.
Get your whole family turned into a pile. It
literally is Mount and Blade where you just walk up to a town and it's just like there's like a bunch of useless options and then there's the loot and burn option. You take that one every single fucking time just across the countryside. Loot and burn, loot and burn.
I like the Wikipedia page on the Taiping Rebellion. Fall of the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, diminished power of central court, rise of irregular provincial armies, vanquishing of the god worship, lasting damage on the perception of Christianity in China. sparking other rebellions, persecution of Hakka people. So basically typing really messed up Christianity in China's eyes.
The fucking insanity.
Let's see.
Soon there will be one more. Who knows? The next great insanity. The next great conflict. It's just brewing. It's just waiting.
Jesus, I mean, like the Three Kingdoms War, also 40 million deaths. But this is really like typical for Chinks. Like they just complete.
Yep. There's so many of them.
It's always the same with them. Like as soon as their society collapses, they just start dropping.
And now look at their society. Wouldn't be a shame if China just collapsed?
Ooh,
Wouldn't it be a shame if there was a civil war in modern China?
it's surprising how many. Like India doesn't really have that, right? Like when you look at the history of India, there's like lots of separatism and lots of war in between Moguls and Marathas and all that sort of stuff. But the death tolls are usually like pretty average. Like
India's
I don't
fucking chill. They just have like a famine and everybody dies and then it's just they pick back up from there.
I mean, like, Jesus. Okay, let's see. What is this? War of the Roses? Oh, no, that's only 50,000. That's not a lot. Mongol conquests. 30 to 40 million.
Yeah, meanwhile in Europe we have like
You know,
we have these conflicts that kill 100,000. We're like, that was pretty bad. That's
yeah.
pretty bad.
You know what the funny thing is on the Wikipedia? Like you have this whole list of wars by death toll, and then you have Mongol conquest deaths, 30 to 40 million, excluding the 200 million deaths from the Black Death migration. I like that part. It's like actually.
Excluding the fucking final Thanos dad.
Jesus. Like when you come to think about it, that's like usually what they do, right? Like with wars, like, oh yeah, this is what happens too after the war, like a bit of famine here, like the people dying from gas, all that sort of stuff. And with Mongols, it's just like complete plague devastation.
It's like, oh, it's okay, guys. We finally repelled the Mongols. Yay. Why are black mushrooms growing on me? Everyone's dying. Oh no.
The An Lushan Rebellion, 21 million.
On Lushan.
And the Reconquista, 7 million. Oh. Well, if you take it over a period of 700 years, of course. That's what they do here. The 100 Years' Wars, almost 3 million. Also,
Master que je peux faire, c'est la guerre de 14-18. War. Sex. War.
war sex.
War is sex. And sex is war.
War on terror, sex on terror.
Terror sex. It's strange too how the whole Mongol invasions always start. It's always like one guy it just goes around. He's like, "Hey guys, join me," and then he
Yes.
reaches like critical mass,
Hmm.
and then he just starts going up to people and he's saying, "You're coming with me now, or I'll kill you." And then they join in and they keep doing that, and then he just balloons into having like 300,000 dudes,
Hmm.
and then it just starts loot and burn his way
Yes.
across the world.
300,000 tanks. Basically, if you look at the old world before modern warfare, that whole steppe area in between Europe and Asia is like really like the reset button.
Yeah,
As soon as something comes out of there, it's like reset time.
it's the wild primal man coming to level civilization. And civilization, you know, every time it gets its shit pushed in by primal man, it grows back stronger.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? That's also the name for Tatar. Like they used to call them Tatars, like in Europe. Everything that was Mongolian Han looking, they just called them Tatars. And
Tata.
yeah, and one of the they say that the name comes from the fact that they associated them with Tartarus, which is like the Greek hell realm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, they were hellish creatures coming out of Tartarus. Straight out of the warp.
Literally just teleporting out of the Eye of Terror, leading a black crusade across the galaxy.
So, the form Tartar has its origin in either Latin or French, coming from Western Europe. Mountain messenger. From the beginning, the extra R was presented in Western forms, and according to Oxford English Dictionary, this was most likely due in association with Tartarus, the Greek deep abyss.
Abyssal creatures.
Yeah, and they used to think the Huns look monstrous. They probably did.
Yeah. Lots of Central Asians, some Europeans, a lot of Asian. It is just like the ultimate mutt. It's the ultimate savage. It's just nature looking at you in the eye.
The second picture I see when I Google Tatars, like the modern Russian one, is like a picture of Hillary Clinton with a Tartar.
Um,
Just an example of bull meme magic.
I wonder what the modern equivalent is going to be. Where is Primal Man going to come from
Yep, that's what I wonder too.
as he comes to trample over the world?
There's not a lot of uncivilized places in the world. Well, I mean,
I think
not like
the
that.
civilization is less important so much as
Yeah.
the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
The whether you have nature at harness, because they had the horses, they had the lifestyle, they were hardened people. They hunted. They hunted. That's the key. Who the fuck hunts anymore?
Mm-hmm. So where is such a place?
Who could go back to hunting? Hmm. Who are the nomad hunters in waiting? I think fucking North Americans of all people would probably be the most competent at that.
Bunch of fucking Harleys.
Yeah, no, they have the nomad hunter instinct.
True. Russians aren't too numerous enough to become that. And they're just too divided among themselves.
Russians could do it. Russians
But
could do it. Russians could just invade Europe.
they could. I don't know for how long, but as soon as they go through the Eastern European barrier, it's like go time.
Just an endless tide.
Eurocells don't stand a chance. But I don't see Chinks becoming it.
No, Chinks are not nomad. And they don't hunt. They could have a gigantic civil war where they just dab on themselves by half. Absolutely.
Very likely.
Arabs are a good candidate too, because they are still kind of Central Asian and they've been displaced a lot now. Well, they're increasingly nomadic. They keep moving to Europe after all. Yeah, I think surprisingly, like Russians and North Americans are probably the most prone.
Everybody thinks it's Middle Easterners, but
Yeah, everybody thinks it's Middle Easterners. Yeah. Like
they just
how do you reach you can't reach critical mass. You can't just amass an army
no.
in the Middle
A-
East. It's very difficult.
And I also think like Middle Easterners are as soon as they're in the proximity of a Gucci belt, they just lose all their violent impulses.
Yeah, it's more so like getting them to snowball together, get along
hmm
together.
hmm
You can get all the Russians together. You can. Don't want pieces of the action. Muslims were never very successful in raiding Europe
Nope, not really.
because they never fucking tried.
It's actually true. Like if you look at all the conquests they attempted, it was always like some blurt at Europe.
Yeah. It was always like some caliph doing it to flex on another one or some shit. If they genuinely tried to fucking invade Europe, they would have been in Germany.
Like an actual crusade type situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like if you look at what happened in Tor or in Vienna, 1,000 years separated. Like when you look at the actual campaign, it's not really that well planned. It was like kind of like an afterthought almost. Like a scouting mission.
Yeah, they just showed up and then there was no opposition.
And it started raining and they decided to leave. I remember that was the case in one of their invasions of Austria, where it started raining and they were like, oh fuck.
Fuck this shit, I'm going home to the desert.
Who wants to fight in the rain?
But I definitely could see like a very disaffected North America just have rednecks going door to door, handing you in shotgun and saying, "You're part of the army now. We're going to invade the world." And then just millions of rednecks like that
Mm-hmm.
getting in on the giant war band.
Completely. Yeah.
Suburban rural retards. I'm gonna go to sleep now.
I'm gonna go hit the sack too.